Has a block on the edge. Look out! Kendra Miller in a foot race. They won't catch him. And the Frogs with the first touchdown tonight, 75 yards.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
And Stroud back to pass. Sets it as 35. Fires down the right sideline. Harrison got it inside the 20. Harrison all the way to the house for Ohio State. Marvin Harrison catches the pass from C.J. Stroud, 58 yards through the air, and the Buckeyes now up 3 touchdowns, 20-0.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
First down and 10 for the Noles. And a quick strike here for Wilson. Wilson's free. Wilson headed to the end zone. He dives, and he is in for the touchdown. Touchdown, Florida State.
Sikkim 365 Radio is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Pine, fake pitch, Pine looking to throw. Now will keep. Pine slips the tackle. No signal, touchdown!
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Tune with time. Deep shot. Down the middle of the field. Wide open receiver. Touchdown, Houston! Matthew Golden on the reception, and Houston is back in front.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And good afternoon on 365 Sports, Sikkim 365 Radio. On the set at our studio on Elm and MLK, Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak. I'm David Smoak, and this is 365 Sports. A lot of you already have jumped right in to the chat room today. The text line with questions, comments, opinions, and whatever else, suggestions at 254-339-1122. I have a graphic here on the TCU and Baylor rivalry. I started digging into this. You know, we get the notes, and it's like very thick in what Brent Ingram and his staff do. Here's some interesting notes about Baylor and TCU. Baylor and TCU. Now, TCU's won 6 of the last 7, so they lead the all-time series, 57, 53, and 7. The first time they ever met was in 1899. They scored no points. That's kind of what it was back then. But listen to this. Now, look at these numbers, and you tell me why this makes sense. In Waco, Baylor is 34, 33, and 5. In Fort Worth, TCU is 24, 19, and 2. And you go, wait a minute, how come they played 72 games in Waco? Then look at the asterisks. From 1899 to 1910, every game was played in Waco because TCU, of course, as a lot of people know, originally was located in Waco, Texas.
Yes, it was.
And that's why you see the difference in the number of games that have been played in Waco. It's like, wait a minute, did they decide to play in Waco like teams play in Arlington or whatever? But that's kind of how that 11 games or so that kind of throws it a little bit more of a difference in the games being played in Waco. Now, another part of it. Here's some more. TCU, as I mentioned, has won 6 of 7. Craig, you've alluded to this so many times because it's true. They have owned Baylor since the amazing 2014 Shootout and Classic. In fact, the last game was 33-23. TCU won in Waco. Baylor's win during this stretch was the 3-overtime thriller in Fort Worth at Amon Carter, 29-23. Charlie Brewer and company winning that game. The last Baylor win in Waco was, sure enough, 61-58. The games that these two teams have played, 44 times The game has been decided by 7 points or less, including 7 ties. And then you see the longest streaks. TCU's won 8 straight at 1 point. Baylor won 8 straight under Grant Taft.
Yeah, they've been dominant in this series the last few years. There's no doubt about that. I don't know why exactly that is, but it hasn't even been, a case where it's TCU's clearly better. Last year they were not better than Baylor. They weren't. They fired their coach mid-season, had Jerry Kill on the sidelines, and they still beat Dave Aranda and Baylor, who went on to win the Big 12 and Sugar Bowl. And if not for that TCU loss, then maybe they're talking playoff. So, that's just – I think that, to me, tells the entire tale of what this series is like. It's no matter how good or bad Baylor is. If Baylor's really bad, it doesn't really matter how good or bad TCU is. They're going to blow out a bad Baylor team, probably. And then the good Baylor teams, they're going to beat them too, even if they're not as good. They're going to ruin their dreams. And so if this was the shoe reversed and Baylor was unbeaten 10-0 and they were heading into Fort Worth, I would, without hesitation in my mind, I'd pick TCU and I wouldn't even lose a wink. I'd probably put my next year of paychecks on it and sleep fine knowing that the TCU would handle their business. Shoe on the other foot, I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith in the Bears, and it's not even because of, this year necessarily and what we saw last weekend. I think they'll rebound nicely from last weekend. At least I would hope so. If they don't, then that's a gut check that they will have failed, because this is a gut check this week in a major way. But in general, I don't have faith in them to beat TCU because they don't. I mean, if Dave Aranda loses this weekend, do y'all realize he'd be 0-3 versus TCU? Yep. You realize that, right? Do you realize it'd be to 3 different head coaches?
Yeah.
Be to Gary Patterson, Jerry Kill, and Sonny Dykes. Does that happen on the other end? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And, I don't know why that is. This is obviously a few years ago. This was tied. This series was tied. And then I think maybe 61-58 gave Baylor a 1-game lead or something. But then, you look up now and, I think the younger people out there, however many younger people we got watching, you don't realize it right now, but time goes by really quickly. Especially, as you start getting closer to the midway point. And so you look up and there's people who are in their probably late 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and so on, that they think of 2014 and 61-58 like it just happened. No, we're closer to the 10-year anniversary than we are to when that game happened. That's reality. And so they have taken care of business. That's why they've got a significant lead now. And that's why, there's hopes that they're going to keep doing that and they'll be able to walk out of this game and only have a couple remaining to, prevent them from possibly getting into the playoff. But it'll take a great effort from Baylor. And that's what I hope we see more than anything. It's not even so much about the TCU, series as it is, or even the opponent, as it is about just Baylor's got to play well. I think and get that bad taste out of their mouth from last week. And it's senior day. And I'm not saying that that's a distraction. It's just, it's reality. And, this group's contributed a lot. And I think there's a lot of senior days going on right now. And I hope people realize that it is human being stuff after all. And there's some people who have made big impacts on this program that are going to be playing their final game. And I think that that's an important thing to take note of as well. So hopefully they're geared up for Saturday.
Speaking of which, go ahead.
Yeah. And look, I think, we were talking after David Hellman was on yesterday about how spite and pettiness is the only acceptable form of etiquette in that is in sports. You can have it, in sports, and it's fine because the other people, it's exchanged in kind. And if team, not the fans should come out again for spite to ruin TCU season. But if the players can't get motivated in the fact that, one, you can right whatever happened last week, and 2, you can ruin your arch rivals' dreams if you beat them. You can ruin their dreams if you beat them. If you can't get up for that, I don't know if you're mature enough to get up for anything.
Yeah, and you shouldn't even have to get that on your plate to get up for them, because they obviously have had, as what you said, they've won 6 of the last 7. The one win was triple overtime. There was a loss in double overtime at Amon Carter in the pouring down rain as well. But other than that, other than those 2 games, 62-22, 45-22, TCU in the middle of all that. Now, that was the 16 blackout night and the CAB and all that just went straight to hell and then lost the next year 45-22 in Fort Worth. But all the other games, 30-28, 33-23, 23-29-23, 16-9. That was that Jalen Rager who had the, or was that Turpin? Was that Rager?
Rager.
Who had the big game, a punt and return, and also a reverse for a touchdown. So that's just a couple of nuggets. Now, you mentioned what you said and what Craig said. Here's Dave Aranda yesterday at the end of our interview. This is the quote. Craig put this up in what is called the Dave Aranda call sheet. This is the very last thing he said to me. The response is going to be the biggest thing, like how we respond. He's talking about his football team, especially after the dud of this last one, is really going to be kind of what is the heart and soul of the team. That's the football coach. And don't you know that's probably being hammered over and over and over again? You shouldn't have to, but maybe you do. And that's the quote. We'll see what the answer is. If you go out and lose to an unbeaten 10-0 team ranked 4th in the country, and it's 27-24, it's a damn dogfight, down to the wire, scratch and claw like a lot of the games have been, that's one thing. But if there's another throw up all over yourself, 31-3 or 27-6 type loss, then we get an answer to Dave Aranda's question. And that doesn't mean TCU is just a better football team, too.
Yeah, I think one of the things, I've been thinking about this a lot lately when people message me and all that about what the difference is between last year and this year. And I think part of it is that they lost some guys that were just emotionally mature on a level that is hard to get to. And if you were, kind of a second-tier leader on the team, you might be like, I don't know if I can get to that place. Jalen Petrie, Terrell Bernard, JT Woods, Xavier Newman-Johnson, who had to confront the fact that he had a terrible season in 2020 to come back and have a great one in 2021. Guys like that are all gone, all in the NFL and talent. Yeah, Abram. So these guys who had just a lot of emotional awareness and maturity to a team that maybe didn't have that in the same level. And we've seen it where the moments just don't, they seem to kind of pass them by, and then they realize oh, that was the moment. And we've heard that from Miranda all year long about they've not really grabbed or gravitated to that. And it's a hard thing to replace. Sometimes, you can say, well, okay, they lost Abram Smith, but they've got, and Treston Ebner, but they've got other running backs that they like. They only lost one offensive lineman. But if he was the guy who had the biggest heart, that's not just replacing skill, that's replacing the guy you didn't want to disappoint next to you, especially coming off the season that he had, showing that, look, nothing is over. I thought Xavier Newman-Johnson would leave after 2020 because, what was coming back going to do for him? He played so poorly, and then he came back and played great. So, yeah, I think sometimes you lose that, and if there's a little bit of a vacuum, then it can grow a little bit bigger. And while this team is it not tragically bad, they're just average. I think that's part of the reason that they've been average.
Yeah, and I think, too, what are we comparing them to? The greatest season in program history?
Yeah, out of 120 years or whatever. Yeah.
We're comparing them to the team that just did what nobody else has ever done in the program's entire history. And so if that's suddenly the benchmark, well, we escalated things really quickly to where that's now the standard is 12 wins and Sugar Bowls and Big 12 titles. We have to be realistic, too.
Yeah, but, if you look at the last 10 or 12 years, Craig, is it really the standard has been more close to double-digit wins than it has been the 1-11 and 2-7?
Has it? Over the last few years?
Since 2000, when they broke the drought for bowl games.
Pretty much both. 2 wins, 1 win.
You had, I just said that, 2-7, 1-11. We understand both were very unique circumstances. But for the most part, since around 2011, 10-3, win the Big 12 in 13 and 14, had a hell of a run in 15 that was blown up by the Seth Russell injury, 16 blown up by the scandal and coaching change, 6-0 at one point. Yes, 17 and also 20 were disasters, but 12-2 in the year before. Remember, 2019, they're playing for a Big 12 title. I think it's not what it was last year as the standard. I think it's more better than the 7-6, 6-7, or 8-5. I think it's a little bit higher than that.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that that's the expectation, but there's also reality that, there was going to be a drop-off after you win 12 games and you have the best season of all time. You would like to see them maintain that, and there's going to be disappointment that they're not going to scrape 10 wins. 10 wins is impossible. They could win out and they're not winning 10 games. And so, that's a disappointment because you'd love to win them all, obviously, but I don't know. I don't see this team as like a year in and year out. I'm expecting 10 and 11 wins out of them just yet. I think that they have the capabilities of that, but I don't think that that's just like if they don't reach that, then it's a disappointment necessarily. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong in being programmed
that
way.
Again. Say that last part again.
I just don't think that the standard is 10 wins or it's not the standard being met.
Yeah,
because I think that's kind of what you're saying, and that's where we just.
Well, what was the
when you lose your all-time best NFL draft class after your best all-time season, and you lose that type of leadership in a super senior COVID-laden time period where you have all these veterans, and you lose all of that, like. I think the standard, you have to be mindful of it. Yeah, you might only win 8 games the following year and be accepting that. Now, if they don't even win 8 and they only win 6 games and they fall, 5 times in a row to close out the season, then yeah, that's a massive disappointment. But, I don't think that every year this program is built just yet to where you're like, okay, it's 10 wins or, it's not a very good year for us.
Well, okay, 19, what was their record? 11?
I mean, I understand what it's been. I'm just saying that I don't think right now they're in that spot where they just reload after 12 wins and 10 wins is totally
they're not
realistic.
Alabama.
Yeah,
they're not
that's
Ohio
what I'm saying.
State. No, there's not that. They're not that. They would like that to be eventually the slow progression to that. But no question, 6-4 was not on the docket. But again, I remember when we all had our preseason predictions about what they would do. I will put my hand in the air that I thought Baylor and Oklahoma State would probably play again for the Big 12 title. I believe I had Kansas State 3rd and Oklahoma, then Texas 4 and 5. No one, I didn't. I'll admit it, TCU probably I had 7, 8, or 9. But I do know this, is that 6-4 can still end up being pretty nice. You beat TCU, then you go to Austin, throw it on the line, see what happens, possibly win a bowl game. 8-5 this year would be a pretty good number. But 7-6 would not be something, or 6-7 would not be something that would leave a very good taste in a lot of people's mouth. We'll even ask Mack Rhoades that. What is the standard? What is the standard? Is it fair to say that it should be, after what you were last year, the best team, as Craig mentioned, ever in Baylor history? And then what's the standard? What is the standard? I got a feeling he might say what he said before about they are here to compete for conference championships and more. But speaking of that, congratulations to Scott Drew for 400 wins, his career 400th win last night.
They were competing for it till last week, and they absolutely no-showed.
Yeah, I know, they did. Also, one other note, the Virginia Cavaliers basketball team supposed to play in Waco on Friday at the Farrell Center in what would be a hell of a matchup. Virginia, ACC, the lineage, the championship, 3 or 4 years ago? I had a text with Matt Roberts, who is the media relations director at Baylor men's basketball. Still nothing yet as far as a decision on that game. Supposed to be on, what is it, Friday or Saturday? I guess it's this weekend, Garrett?
Friday in Vegas.
Friday in Vegas, not the Farrell Center, for God's sake. In Vegas, but that game is still, has not yet, and there's no decision on exactly if they'll play that game or not. Meanwhile, tonight, as a nugget, Kentucky, Michigan State, and Kansas and Duke are both playing 2 games back-to-back. They're playing each other up in Indianapolis.
I'm not allowed to watch the Kansas game.
Why not?
Because I'm not. Amanda won't watch them when they're that tense. So I
she
can't
just
watch
wants to watch them against,
No,
Wofford.
She'll watch them later.
Virginia,
she'll watch it
Commonwealth,
later.
or
She'll follow along on her phone. She'll watch it later, but I'm not allowed to watch it.
All right.
I can watch Michigan State, but as soon as Kansas starts.
Can you watch Florida State anymore?
I'm allowed, yes.
Okay, you're allowed to.
I'm allowed, yes.
That's good to know, Paul.
I have permission.
Bert Emanuel Jr., freshman quarterback, Central Michigan, named the Earl Campbell Tyler Rose Award winner. He had 293 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns in their rally, come-from-behind win against Buffalo, 31-27.
His father made a play that pioneered part of what we understand now.
With the Falcons.
No, with the Buccaneers.
With the Buccaneers.
In the playoffs.
That's right, yes.
So in the playoffs, he caught a ball that, he caught it, but the ground was part of the whole thing.
Yep.
And in that game, it was ruled not a catch. And then when the season came up again, they said, hey, his hands are underneath this. His arms are underneath it. He's caught the ball. It's touching the ground, but that doesn't mean that.
Is there anything more
ambiguous,
misunderstood or ambiguous or hard to figure out than a catch anymore in the NFL or even sometimes elsewhere?
I think there's a little more add to Bert Emanuel Jr., by the way. That was a guy who is not the starting quarterback and is part of a somewhat rotation, and due to injury or whatever, bad play, what have you, he ends up coming in midway through that game, and proceeds to go run for 293 yards and 3 touchdowns. He had not scored before that game. So he not only played well, he came in when he's done nothing, basically, and took over at quarterback and ran for nearly 300 yards and 3 touchdowns in half a game to win the game.
I didn't realize it was just – I remember I obviously voted for him.
Pretty
impressive. A lot of
impressive.
people went with Kendry Miller at the start. If you see the votes coming in on Sunday evening, Kendry Miller. And then I think it might have been Kirk Bowles, and then I think it was me, and then also Cedric Golden. It was Bert Emanuel. If you really read it, and Craig got deeper into it, an incredible performance in that come-from-behind win. Jeff Grimes, even with what the offense was like last weekend, a part of 51 nominees for the Frank Broyles Award for the top college football assistant in the country. Grimes is one of 51. Mike Brown, receivers coach at Cincinnati. John Heacock, defensive coordinator at Iowa State. Andy Koltenicki, offensive coordinator, tight ends coach at Kansas. Joe Klanderman, who put on a clinic in Waco last week, the defensive coordinator for Kansas State. Mike Blesh, remember him? He's at North Texas, their offensive coordinator. He was a coach at Temple High School, just south of here in Central Texas. And Garrett Riley, offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach at TCU. Just some of the names on that 51-member list. Also, the Davey O'Brien Award. May, the quarterback at North Carolina, Drake May, won quarterback of the week for the second time in 3 weeks. And, of course, we're going to hear from someone who does focus in on North Carolina, Adam Lucas at 3:45.
There's breaking coaching news. Now, it's the smaller school, but Charlotte, UNC Charlotte, who fired Will Healy earlier this year, they have named their new head football coach, and it is Biff Poggi. He is the assistant head coach at Michigan. He is coming to Charlotte to be their head coach now, just announced today.
Will he still finish out the year with Michigan?
It appears like he might.
Yeah.
So,
I don't think Charlotte's the type of program really clamor for him to leave a national title run. I think you'd probably want to benefit from him finishing this thing out, wouldn't you? Because I don't think he's going to go scrape together a recruiting class that's going to make that much of a difference in year number 1 for them. Right? Yeah. I mean, that's what I would think. I would think you get way more momentum off him going and finishing this out and saying, yeah, I just left the Wolverines after a playoff appearance and a Big Ten title and win over Ohio State and whatever else versus I left in mid-November to start on this recruiting class that'll be, what do they even finish? Like top 75 if you're Charlotte's recruiting class? I don't even know what range they would be, and not enough to make any type of a difference by starting a couple months early in my mind. So, yeah, I would think he would close that out, but I don't know for sure.
All right, so Rutgers, how about this? We've seen, we got to take a break here. Rutgers, do you believe it's been 10 years since they joined the Big Ten?
Sure. Yeah, sure. Yeah. don't think about it in any way.
There's a guy, and I know him, and we've gone back and forth, and I'm sorry I'm going blank on your name. He's a big Rutgers fan. I brought it up. I did not have the reaction, but I didn't know that when I saw that pop up earlier today as a 10-year that they joined the Big Ten, and I just did not remember that. I didn't remember it was that long ago, and I'm almost to the point where I'm like my mush head on when most of the changes have happened when it comes to a lot of the conference changes, additions, realignment, and losses.
I don't think it's even being a mush head. I think it's just, unless you're a Rutgers fan, I don't know why you're thinking about the commemorative anniversary, but because I don't think about it's 10 years since TCU joined the Big 12. Is it? I don't know. Maybe this year is. I wouldn't even know. I don't know. But that obviously
Actually, it is.
Is it?
2012 was their
first
year.
Well, there you go. Yeah. So, I mean, it's just not. It's not a thing I think about. But I'm sure if you're a Rutgers fan, you got the deal of a lifetime moving to the Big Ten. I mean, it's basically security for life. It appears at least, and that's a move that was. Not probably the best for their overall records, moving forward in football titles necessarily, but for the health of the university and the athletic program and all that, I mean, they struck gold. So I don't mean to demean it in any way. It's just not a thing I think about. So, kudos to Rutgers for the anniversary.
I brought it up not because I remembered. I brought it up because I happened to see it on my timeline earlier today, and there was an article about it. And behind the scenes, which is always really cool to read and listen to. We have Mack Rhoades today, Baylor Director of Athletics, 420, his reaction after the mess Saturday night at McClain Stadium. We'll hear from Adam Lucas, who covers North Carolina, in 20 minutes. We'll have Off the Radar Top 5, J.J. Joe, and John McClain. Guys, anything else to wrap up this?
I want you to read this.
Okay.
Because I have an idea for this, and I want it on video so that when they steal it, I can say I thought of it first.
So this is the Citrus Bowl, which is in Orlando, has now changed their name to partner with Cheez-It. It is going to be the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl. It's the host of the SEC hosted team with the Big Ten on January 2nd of 2023 at Camping World Stadium in Orlando.
But there's already a Cheez-It Bowl that is at Camping World Stadium in Orlando, and it is right before that. It's a lesser bowl. So Cheez-It now has 2 bowls.
In Orlando.
In Orlando. They have 2.
There a Camping World Bowl?
Yeah, so Cheez-It bought out the sponsorship. Camping World is
That's
happy
what
for
it
the
is?
stadium.
Okay.
Yeah. So same thing. We were there. Baylor beat North Carolina in the game where they didn't throw a pass.
And a Russell Athletic Bowl.
Russell Athletic Bowl. Same one, yes. So I think, because I'm a big fan of Cheez-Its, and
they're not good for you.
I mean, no, neither is whiskey, but I'm a big fan of that too. But I'm a big fan of Cheez-Its. Cheez-Its has a bunch of varieties of different flavors of Cheez-Its. So I think that one of them should be the Cheez-It Bowl, and then the other one, or maybe the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl, and then the other one that was the Cheez-It Bowl should be the hot and spicy Cheez-It Bowl, the extra toasty Cheez-It Bowl, the Parmesan garlic Cheez-It Bowl, whatever Cheez-Its there are. And Cheez-It, I'm here to shill for you. But this is my idea, mine, not your ad agency.
They've already thought about
mine.
it.
No, they have not. That's what they would have named it that already. I thought of this idea.
I'm sure there were alternate opportunities.
Look, I thought of this idea, not the Cheez-It ad agency who they pay millions to.
No, they've already done it.
Listen, Nabisco, you're wasting your money.
Let's
this
go.
guy.
Let's take a break.
Why are you trying to cut my money out?
Because you're making me want to eat extra toasty Cheez-Its because they're really good.
Again, Nabisco, look at these guys
From
right
Lee
here.
Buttercup, Rutgers had some good wrestlers. Dennis Haiti said this: the Rutgers athletic department makes UCLA's financial situation look like a well-run and funded machine. By the way, Tony Altimore sent us some stuff about UCLA and the upcoming meetings with the Cal Board of Regents coming up this week. We'll do that today or tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, I remember scratching my head. I mean, that's, 10 years ago. So I obviously have learned a bit more about college athletics and all of that. So, I was kind of, I don't know, probably not all that filled in on Rutgers when they made the move to the Big Ten. Didn't know, definitely didn't know as much as I know now about it and why they made sense and all that kind of stuff that comes with realignment and everything like that. But yeah, I mean, that was a golden gift. And now you fast forward all these years later and you see the TV deal that they're signing and the market that Rutgers brings and all of that. And yeah, that was a genius move for them and a great move for them.
By the way, there was a former Nebraska linebacker who does, I think, a podcast. He's a good dude. Played in the NFL. Played with the Cowboys at one point, didn't he, Paul? Will Compton at some point.
I think so.
I know he played a lot of different places. Who put up a note that he was told that Matt Rule was in Lincoln. No, I don't even want to put that up because it's going to create. That's okay. That's not true. Matt Rule is in Charlotte, North Carolina. Just letting you know.
He did not play with the Cowboys.
He's not in Lincoln. He was not there. Is there a connection with Lincoln? Is there interest in Lincoln or vice versa? I think so. Is he the target? I don't know. But yes, there is at least some simmering with that name among probably a handful of others. All right, don't forget Sports Tonight at 10:30 on the CW channel. Thanks to Emery Winter with all that he does. When we come back, we'll look at a couple of the notes, the bangers in the Big 12 and the top 25, and then Adam Lucas on how about North Carolina and Mack Brown and May, their quarterback, among more. This is 365 Sports. Marco's Pizza. I can always go online and there's all sorts of specials. You hear me tell you can go to this or that, whatever code. Go to marcos.com. Pizza lovers get it. But there's also 5 locations around Waco and Central Texas. And what Bob Mock has done is taken what was none and turned it into 5 locations. So it pretty much saturates the area of Waco and perhaps where you live as well. If you want to order pizza, well, you can go to marcos.com or just pick up the phone and call them. We like the pepperoni magnifico, the all meat with like thin crust, Chicago cut, which is the square cut. You may have your own of what you want. But there are 5 locations. Started out, of course, there's one in Belmead and China Spring. There's one in Woodway. And in the last, year, they've added locations in Robinson, which is on the east side of I-35 in the south part of Waco, and also in Hewitt on the other side of I-35. So if you love pizza, Marco's Pizza, 5 locations in the Waco area and maybe where you live. Go to marcos.com. Pizza lovers get it.
This month, Allen Samuelson Waco is having the Black Friday sales event. You can save big on the new 2022 Ram 1500 Crew Cab with total values up to $4,250 with 2.9% for 72 months. That's right, plus an extra $500 bonus cash to first responders and no payments until January 2023. Shop an award-winning dealership with award-winning product. Allen Samuelson Waco, the place to shop Ram trucks.
Come by, let's be friends.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your home for holiday favorites for parties or time with the family with various specials available while supplies last in store or ordering by phone, including 8 to 10 pound half spiral hams at $4.15 a pound, 12-pound pit hams at $4.35 a pound, 8 to 22 pound bone-in hams for $3.40 a pound, 14 to 16 pound whole raw turkeys at $2.85 a pound, and $4.80 a pound for 9 to 12 pound whole smoked turkeys, 6 to 8 pound mini pit hams for $5.99 a pound. Limit 4 of each item per customer. Call in advance to ensure availability or drop by Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. Waco Custom Marketplace, your full-service butcher shop for customized orders or cuts of your favorite steaks or beef tenderloin or specially ordered prime rib roast. WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McClain County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
From the chat room today, SC fan, KG, what kind of title is Can UCLA Burst USC's Bubble? The stock market is a bubble, not USC. Cool. Yeah,
is that from one of the videos or something?
I guess it's one of the videos. Yeah. Matt Clark, Patrick was asking a question. Go by. Someone asked this one. The Pac-12, Paul, you mentioned this. It's a mess, but it can be easily just simplified right this weekend, or it can become even more of a mess.
Yeah, I'm curious to see it. And again, I think that the Pac-12 for several years of, let's be honest, pretty boring, mundane football has several teams that are fun to watch this year. USC, UCLA, Washington, Oregon. Oregon State's been pretty fun to watch. All fun to watch. Washington State's has been entertaining at times. So from a league that was like, I don't know if I'm going to stay up and watch this game, to, yeah, I think I'll watch it because they're fun. They've got some good, exciting things going on there. I think what Dan Lanning is doing at Oregon is fun. Kalen DeBoer at Washington. So, yeah, but it has gotten a little jumbled there with 2 weeks to go.
From Smoak, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Pac-12, I think, if you're able to stay up, and I'm a night owl, so I definitely watch my fair share of Pac-12 dark. The brand of football can be very hit or miss, but if you watch it long enough, you'll stumble onto some fun contests, and definitely something. That's how I knew about Jaden DeLora, was watching him at Washington State when everybody else was asleep for the most part, except for, fellow college football fans. That's why when he got to Arizona, I was like, oh, that'll be fun, and also a nightmare at times, but mostly fun. And sure enough, that's what it's turned into. But yeah, I mean, there's some good teams, but they just didn't have elite teams really. And maybe Oregon you would push into that category, but now there's a handful of teams because Utah's emerged, and obviously a stake their claim. USC's back, UCLA's good. And Washington's jumping up and making things happen like they did last weekend, and yeah, it's turned into a really fun league, and I've enjoyed kind of seeing them with their backs against the wall come out swinging this year, and providing a lot of entertainment after taking a whole lot of crap all off season. And it's good to see the Big 12 do the same, last year and continue that on. So believe it or not, not anti-Pac-12. I know there was like that thought when realignment was going on of like this league can survive and this one must die. I never felt that way. But yeah, I definitely pick the Big 12 if I have to flip a coin and, pick one. But I'm happy to see the Pac-12 thriving. And I'm, very curious to see if they also pull a Big 12 and potentially have their national championship contender eliminated by beating up on each other, which they've taken a step towards for sure.
All right, I'm happy for the Big 12. We'll see the Pac-12, see how they finish. I think it's great when you have more than just one or two teams. And again, some conferences have the elite of the elite, and they are just hard to get in front of. Smokey Bear. Baylor is just mentally whipped and tired. If they cannot or could not get up for last week, they sure won't this week.
Well, I don't believe that to be true, because one thing this team has shown us this year
is you cannot read the tea leaves.
That last week does not indicate anything for the week after, which is what's been frustrating about them. It's have the decency to be really good or really bad. It's the what I call the Cowboys conundrum. Either be really good Cowboys and get back to a Super Bowl, or get a top 5 draft pick. Don't pick in the middle for me. But Baylor's kind of got that right now, where it's like and then like last week was the only week of the games that they've lost where they were legitimately bad. All the rest of them, it was even more disappointing, because if you go out and get hammered, that's one thing. But if you let something slip away because you didn't care enough, that to me is almost worse.
I can't imagine that you have to have your, again, you got to have a little bit of pride.
I mean, I think they're going to come out and play well this weekend. I think they'll rebound. I think there's less attention on this game. They don't do well with attention. I think if they had won last week, they would absolutely mess their pants this weekend against TCU, honestly, because that's just kind of how they played. So maybe they got that out of the way, and now they can play free and clear because they're not worried about fans. They're not worried about uniforms. They're not worried about, super sky-high expectations and Big 12 title bursts. I mean, some teams thrive on that. Some teams can feed off that, and that provides them an extra energy boost, and some teams just become a bundle of nerves, and I feel like Baylor becomes the latter.
Bundle of nerves is kind of almost what Dave Aranda said, but not said it exactly like that.
And that's unfortunate.
Anxiety.
Because, they're going to look up at some point and realize – probably well after this season's over with. Some of them may go on and have careers where they don't think about it, win Super Bowls and things like that. But I do think there will be some guys who down the line look back and go, dang, man, like we really had a great opportunity in 2022 and we couldn't put it together. And, they can save that by, I think, closing strong. And what better opportunity to do that than this Saturday? I mean, no pressure, dude. I said this in my article, nobody's watching for you. Nobody's watching. Big Noon Kickoff is not here for Baylor football. They're here for TCU. Bottom line, they're here because TCU is unbeaten, and they stand in the way of some much bigger schools getting into the playoff or not, and they are just a playoff team, so everybody is like, can they do it? Can they go unbeaten? Can they be that non-Michigan, non-Clemson, non-Ohio, non-Oklahoma Big 12 team to make the playoff for the first time? And TCU seems to embrace that. They're like, hell yeah, we can be that team. And if you were to ask Baylor, they'd be like, oh my gosh, I don't,
Last year, Baylor...
Last year they would have done it, but not this year. But TCU
Yeah.
seems to be built for that. So that's why Big Noon Kickoff is here. So I think for the Baylor players, like, just go out and play. Like, nobody's expecting you to win this game. No, mostly nobody's predicting you to win this game. Vegas might say differently because I think Vegas just knows so much that they can sense, like, the pressure's off. This team can just go play. They're at home. It's the senior day finale. Yeah, there's a lot of motivation there, but the pressure is not on them in the slightest. It's all on TCU.
All right, guess who's a TCU Baylor fan this week? Tennessee?
Sure.
LSU?
Sure.
USC?
Yeah.
Alabama? Clemson? Utah? Name them. They're all big Baylor fans. Here's from
no
a
more
TCU
tonight,
fan.
although I don't think it's going to change like dramatically. But we'll know especially who's really locked in on TCU later tonight.
Matt Clark, the college football standings again will come out, and if TCU's anything less than 4, it'll be like hell bent for election, and they might even move up one. Matt Clark, to be fair, what goes around comes around. Last year, this time we, TCU fans, were jealous of how Baylor manages to continually get great football coaches. And I get it.
I'd be frustrated too. It's like they're dead. Wait, no, they're not. They're dead again. Wait, no, they're not. Okay, this time they're done. Here comes Dave Aranda in year 2. Yeah, I mean that. The saving grace though for your TCU fans is that you stopped them from having an even better year last year. They could have won 13 games. They could have won. I don't think they would have gone in the playoff and won it, but you stopped them from having an even better year. But yeah, I'd imagine that's frustrating that you dominate that series and yet, if TCU doesn't win the Big 12 title this year, I mean, it's a massive disappointment because you're already set for it with 2 weeks to go still. I mean, you're the odds-on favorite, and so, yeah, you have to take advantage of those opportunities. And
I don't think there's any way they can't play for the Big 12 title. Like, somehow mathematically, I know they have
they don't win the Big
league.
12 title.
I'm talking about playing for it.
They've already clinched.
Okay.
I'm talking about if they don't win the Big 12 title, then that's going to be a massive disappointment because they had it clinched for 2 weeks.
Happy birthday, Phil Venzer. He said he's 60. Make sure you hold on to that. It doesn't get any easier, Phil.
By the way, part of the reason Baylor keeps hiring good football coaches is because of Mack Rhoades and the way he does it. If you look at 4 of the last 5 coaches he's hired, because I guess he hired Tony Levine at Houston. When he hired Tony Levine at Houston?
He hired Herman.
Herman, and then, but I'm got to get my timeline right.
I think he hired Tony Levine, but I don't know.
He hired Kevin Sumlin, who A&M hired away, which it was a great fit at Houston. Kevin Sumlin was. Tom Herman, who was fantastic at Houston, and he hired Matt Rule and Dave Aranda here.
Yes.
So
we're about to start talking about Tom Herman a lot more too.
Yeah.
You wonder if that name pops up here in the next month, if not earlier. Now, we'll have Mac, by the way, at 4:20 today on many things. We'll look back at last week and a lot of the disconnect or a lot of the passion, and then, of course, the blowing the tires.
I would also say
the loss to K-State.
Sorry. I would also say this about TCU. I mean, be frustrated or annoyed by, Baylor hiring coach after coach that seems to keep them upright, and not only upright, but pretty good. But, you could have whiffed dramatically replacing the greatest coach in TCU history. And instead, you nailed it with Sonny Dykes, which I said yesterday, like a few years ago when Matt Rule got the Baylor job, Sonny Dykes was mentioned for it, I think. And I remember being against it at that time. But you got to remember, he was coming off like Cal, and he's starting at SMU. So it wasn't like now where you're like, yeah, Sonny Dykes, of course. But, then he went to SMU, obviously, and did his thing. And right there in the Metroplex, I mean, you could have gone, other directions, but he just makes tons of sense. And he seems to be fitting like a glove already. And clearly it's translated well for the players. So, I think he's going to have a long and illustrious career there, and we'll see how far he can take it this year. But I would say, as you're seeing with Baylor, take advantage of when you've got these really special teams together, because next year they are going to lose a ton of guys. They're going to lose Quentin Johnston. They're going to lose Tre'Vius Hodges. They're going to, on and on and on. And so, definitely take advantage of it while you got it.
I have been preaching that for basically 12 years. Baylor made a bowl game for the first time in forever, and then you could just enjoy it because you never know how long it's going to last, and then you have something interrupted with what happened with Coach Briles and company, and then, a coach leaves. Enjoy it. If you're Ohio State and you're like Clemson the last 8 to 10 years, if you're Alabama, Georgia, you usually use LSU, you're used to it. You almost feel that way. But even Georgia had their time. Even Alabama's had their time. Not comparing Baylor or TCU to them, but enjoy it while it's there. Don't worry about, oh my God, if we do beat Baylor, what about the next game? Just enjoy the moment. When we come back, Adam Lucas, we had him on a handful of times last year during the NCAA tournament basketball season. The Tar Heels go on to play for the national title, beat Baylor, remember, in that second-round game in Fort Worth. He's here to talk about the Tar Heels football team. That's next. This is 365 Sports. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas. Appreciate them for what they do, because I appreciate Dr. Steve Childress because of what he's done and what he can do for you and his staff. If you've never been there, and that's fine, it's in Robinson, Texas, but their building, their office, it is a machine. Not intimidating, but it is a machine the way they run it. From the time they set you up at an appointment, from the time you walk in the door, from the time you check in, to the time you go back to wherever you're going to be for a teeth cleaning or something that might be a root canal. It is a machine. It is absolutely amazing to listen to the energy as you're walking around the hallways, to listen to the communication among others. It is fantastic, and on top of that, Dr. Steve Childress is elite when it comes to dentistry in every way possible. Something you need that's an emergency, he can handle it. He's done that for me on a couple of occasions. If it's just making sure that you're on the right track with what your dental work should be, he's fantastic. I've told you he's changed my outlook of what I've done in the last couple of years and feel so much better getting my smile back. Dr. Steve Childress, his amazing staff, Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgan Ford. It's that time of year. It's football season, and BK Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football teams in Texas, right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, led by our leading rusher, the F-150, 45 years in a row. Lock in your best price and rate today by custom ordering your new F-150 at BK Ford. Simple, easy, trusted. Experience better at Bird Colgan Ford.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Howdy, Chet Garner here, professional guide, searching for bears in the wild. But not just any bears, oh no, a particular kind. With hundreds of thousands roaming freely in the wild, yet still hard to spot unless you know the signs. There they are, Baylor bears. If you're a bear enthusiast or even a bear yourself, join me and let's find some bears in the wild.
Join the expedition at baylor.edu/alumni.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Adam Lucas joined us last year. In fact, earlier in the year, as North Carolina began the NCAA tournament, once the bracket was released, it eventually would play Baylor, beat them in Fort Worth, and go on to have a great run. And now on because of what a run it's been for Mack Brown in North Carolina. Adam, thanks for your time. I know basketball season's begun, and we know what it's like in Chapel Hill. But how much has this football team got the fan base a little bit engaged?
Well, I think especially now that they've clinched the Coastal and know that they're going to play in the ACC championship game against Clemson, a lot of excitement in Chapel Hill. The Tar Heels get to finish out with 2 home games. They've been on the road for several weeks now, and so to get to finish out with 2 home games is going to be a lot of excitement at Kenan Stadium.
Adam, with Drake May, he should be firmly in the Heisman conversation. How much does this now open up other recruiting for players who want to come and play with him for at least one more year?
Yeah, I definitely think it helps, especially if you're talking about guys who might play in 2023, to be able to say this is who's going to be throwing you the ball. And I think it also helps. Carolina's offensive coordinator, Phil Longo, was talking this week about just the number of NFL scouts who have been at practice just to get an early look a year ahead at Drake May. I think you can legitimately say Carolina's going to get visited by every team in the NFL next year multiple times. And so if you want to come to Chapel Hill and be on display for the decision makers at the highest level, then you'll have the opportunity to do that.
So, Adam, let's dive into Drake May, because he is starting to get a lot of attention. You're hearing his name pop up all over now whenever college football comes up, and especially, Heisman-type talk. It feels like he's very much going to be on the radar for folks here very soon if he's not already. So break it down from your perspective, having seen the recruitment landing him, redshirting last year, glimpses, and now, what's obviously impressing anybody who's watching this year.
Yeah, well, Drake was originally committed to Alabama, as I think most good quarterbacks are at some point committed to Alabama.
Right.
But he does have that Carolina family legacy. His dad, Mark, played football here and was a very successful quarterback, and kind of in the era where, teams weren't regularly throwing for 450 yards, was one of the best quarterbacks that Carolina ever had. Of course, his brother Luke played basketball for the Tar Heels and hit a huge shot against Kentucky on the way to the 2017 national title. So he had those Carolina ties, and when Carolina made the coaching switch from Larry Fedora to Mack Brown, Drake got interested again. He had told Coach Brown he didn't want to go somewhere where he wasn't going to be able to win. I think Mack Brown showed that you could do that in Chapel Hill. Drake believed him, so he's here now. As far as skill level, I think he's a little taller than Sam Howell, who the Tar Heels had last year, who's now with the Washington Commanders, and I think that's helped him. But I think the surprising thing about this year has been how good he's been on the move, both running the football and just getting outside of the pocket to throw the ball. He's made a couple throws on the move that are NFL-type throws, and this is really his first full year of any sort of college competition. So you have to assume he's only going to get better. He's spread the ball around to a bunch of different targets. His number one target's Josh Downs, who probably has an NFL future also and is having a great 2022. but Drake's used everybody, guys out of the backfield, his tight ends, his other receivers. So he's really shown the ability to see the field. And to this point, he has not made a lot of costly mistakes, which is why Carolina's 9-1.
All right. So you just mentioned Josh Downs. Who, in your opinion, is more of an All-American, May or Downs?
Well, I think what Josh Downs has in his favor is that he's done it for a couple of years now. I mean, he clearly is one of the best receivers in the country and should be getting the Litnikoff Award consideration. The Tar Heels move him all over the field and line him up everywhere they can so defenses can't really get a fix on him. But I think it would be crazy to say that Drake May's not having one of the best seasons of any player in the country. So if you can only pick one, then I think you have to pick Drake May just because of the sheer video game numbers he's putting up. But I think that would be doing a disservice to both of them because I'm not sure either one of them is where they are without the other.
It's weird that you brought him up, and not because it's random because we're talking about North Carolina, but I'm voting for my All-American team, and Downs is on my first team at wide receiver. And what a year he's had, as you mentioned, also an NFL career. Paul?
Adam, look, this week is Georgia Tech, a team that cannot match them on offense, in any kind of reasonable game, but you never know. But then after that, it's NC State, a huge rival, and a team that, in spite of losing Devin Leary, has been remarkably resilient in winning all the games but one since that's happened. And then Clemson. How do you feel about this team's chances to win out and find themselves in the New Year Six?
Well, I think just the fact that the Tar Heels have the opportunity to do so is quite a pretty far jump from where anybody thought they were at this point, or even honestly about a month or two ago, because Carolina got physically manhandled by Notre Dame and folks weren't sure they were going to make a bowl game. Now you're talking about the Orange Bowl or something else. I think the Tar Heels will probably beat Georgia Tech. The Jackets are on their third quarterback and second head coach of the season, which is usually not a good formula. NC State's a tricky one. I'm not sure. I think people outside of North Carolina may think they're a little better than they are. But then, of course, Clemson is Clemson. They got all the talent in the world. But Carolina played Clemson in 2015 in the ACC championship game. And I think the Tar Heels went into that game feeling like if Clemson messed up, then Carolina had a chance. I think Carolina will go to this ACC championship game feeling like they at least have a chance to outscore Clemson, which is pretty much what Carolina has to do given the way the defense has played this year.
I'm glad you said defense. I was going to ask that coming up next, so let's talk about it. That defense, I know it's been problematic at times. It's it's a reason why they've had to score a bunch of points to win some games. But what have you seen as far as growth, maturation, and just kind of the tail of the defense as it's gone along this year?
Here's the thing about Carolina's defense in 2022. They're going to do exactly what they need to do to win the game and not 1% more than that. So, for example, this past weekend, Carolina really needed a turnover against Wake Forest. The Beaks had been scoring pretty much at will against Carolina's defense. And all of a sudden, Carolina comes up with a huge interception by Cam Kelly that changed the game and gives Carolina the chance to win. That's how it's been this year. The first half isn't real pretty. The second half is marginally prettier, but then when Carolina needs a stop, they somehow get it. And Cedric Gray, Carolina's linebacker, leads the Power 5 in tackles this year. He's got 108. So there are some good individual players that haven't always fit together perfectly. Gene Chizik is Carolina's defensive coordinator, who obviously knows what he's doing and has continued to make adjustments as the year has gone on. But even against Georgia Tech, I don't think the Tar Heels are going into that one thinking, well, we'll just turn this thing over to the defense and let them work. You just need the defense to keep them somewhat under control and let Drake May just try to move the ball up and down the field.
Is Drake May the difference from what last year was a disappointment?
I don't know that that's true because last year Carolina had Sam Howell, who's an NFL quarterback. And so it's not like they went from me playing quarterback to Drake May. I do think this year's leadership is better. This year's kind of upper class involvement is a little better and just sense of ownership. But the biggest difference, honestly, is that a couple of close games early went Carolina's way. And as opposed to last year when a couple of close games didn't go Carolina's way and things spiraled from there. And I mean, the Tar Heels still went to a bowl game last year, but it was one of those bowl games that everybody goes to, not like the one that they're talking about this year. And I really think that early start, the way that Carolina somehow miraculously beat App State in Boone, and games like that. I mean, Carolina's 6-0 on the road for the first time in school history, and all six have been by a score by 6 points or less, 7 points or less. So one or two of those going the other way completely changes the season, and we're probably not having this conversation, but for whatever reason, this is the year that those games went Carolina's way.
Adam Lucas, GoHeels.com, with us on 365 Sports.
Adam, if you had to power rank the football rivalries between the schools in North Carolina, I know that Wake Forest and North Carolina is a big deal. Obviously, the basketball rivalry is Duke. We had you on talking about that, last season. But it is weird. You have these four schools in North Carolina that I know basketball is more important than football. Where are the football rivalries there?
Carolina and NC State is the big one. Wake Forest really wants to be the big one, but no one really remembers that they're here. So it's hard for them to be the big one. But Carolina and NC State is first. I think Carolina Duke is probably second because they're actually playing for something. They're playing for the Victory Bell, which has been around a long time. And that was a great game this year. Mack Rhoades said yesterday he thinks that game-winning drive against Duke was Drake May's quote-unquote Heisman moment where people started taking him seriously. So I think that would be number two. And then everything else is just kind of in a bowl down there, and you can pick out whatever you want. And I'm not sure anyone outside of the state of North Carolina really notices that it's occurring.
So that means, I guess, these last 2 weeks, you really couldn't have shaped it up any better. I mean, they got to take care of Georgia Tech, obviously, but and they've clinched a spot. But in terms of closing out and, keeping on, I mean, to have NC State and Clemson back-to-back, I mean, there's no lack of motivation, is there?
No, and Carolina Duke used to be the traditional season ender, and Carolina sort of wanted to get away from that and wanted to end the season with NC State because that game traditionally has meant a little more both for bowl implications and league implications and all sorts of stuff. So that's the way the program wants it. That's how it's going to be this year. NC State last year was one of those games that Carolina should have won and somehow miraculously managed to lose. So they'll have plenty of incentive going into that one, assuming that they're able to hold on against Georgia Tech this week.
Adam, covering Baylor for as long as we have, since 2010, there was a stretch where they were just trying to win 3 non-conference games and then get to a bowl game because they hadn't been in over a decade and a half. North Carolina, this year they have Notre Dame, which is almost part of a quasi-conference game. But Florida A&M, Appalachian State, and I'm making fun of them. We know what they did to A&M, and Georgia State. Next year, they have App State, South Carolina, Minnesota, so a couple of Power Fives in Campbell. Is there a chance they dip their toe in a bigger pond when it comes to a non-conference game? I know that their schedule seems to be pretty much loaded up for the next several years.
I think the biggest variable there is who's going to be in your conference. Is Notre Dame going to be a conference game? Is Carolina even going to be in the ACC? So I think you hesitate to play some of those games. And Carolina's gotten to where they'll play one of these kickoff games. They've played LSU, they've played Georgia down in Atlanta. Both those games. So they're going to do that every 3 or 4 years, almost kind of like a bowl game at the front of your season. But I just think given the uncertainty and also, honestly, given some of the scheduling preferences that have emerged, they want a couple of those to be winnable games, maybe one marquee-ish type game like a Notre Dame, and then one kind of in the middle, but you feel like you should probably win if things go well.
Just for my own curiosity here, Adam, if, realignment were to go wacko like it almost did the last couple of summers, and all of a sudden there's a Big Two, what is because you see all this speculation online, and North Carolina is obviously a very attractive brand, but are they more of a Big Ten school or an SEC school in your mind?
Really depends on who you ask.
Okay.
I think if it's an academic decision, Carolina definitely sees itself as a better fit in the Big Ten. You've got a lot of state schools in there that are very highly ranked academically, but you've got some travel that's not great.
Right.
In the SEC, you've got more teams that Carolina fans actually care about and want to go watch and see the Tar Heels play. But also the SEC doesn't play a lot of the sports that Carolina is really good at and that really values. Carolina's field hockey team is going to the Final Four this year and is undefeated, ranked number 1. The SEC doesn't have that, but the Big Ten does. And in fact, the 3 of the other teams in the Final Four are from the Big Ten. So going to be a lot of moving parts to that equation, but it's hard to imagine the ACC existing the way it does now 5 years from now.
Adam, basketball's tipped off. How much is what's going on this year? I know it's early. We have Duke and Kansas tonight, Michigan State, Kentucky tonight. Your thoughts about the Tar Heels?
I assume you guys are recording those games so that you can watch Carolina and Gardner-Webb.
Absolutely.
I know that's a big one on the national schedule tonight.
It's on the big screen.
Yep. Carolina's 2-0 and ranked number 1 in the country. Really haven't played all that well yet. The big difference from last year is Brady Manick's gone. Kind of like he was in the second half of the Baylor game. He's gone. The Tar Heels brought in Pete Nance, a grad transfer from Northwestern, who I think everyone wants to be Brady Manick, but he's really a different kind of player. And so that's been the evolution here in the first part of the season, as the Tar Heels try to figure out the best way to utilize him and to figure out who on the bench is going to actually contribute, because Hubert Davis doesn't want to just play 5 players this year. He wants to get some more contributions, but so far nobody's really stepped up and earned those minutes. So that'll be an ongoing process before Carolina goes to Portland next weekend for the PK85, which is loaded, and we'll learn a lot about the Heels out there.
Thank you, Adam. Good stuff. Good luck. 9-1, North Carolina rolling along, and it's kind of a team last year that got a lot of attention, didn't work out this year under the radar. Lost that game to Notre Dame 45-32, had that crazy shootout with App State, and here they are, going to play for the ACC title.
Had a crazy shootout last week against Wake Forest. Wake Forest seems to have flattened a tire or something, but North Carolina's been a fun story. It has been kind of slightly under the radar. I mean, you had to have paid attention when they're suddenly 8 and the climbing and the one still staying at 1. It's not growing, and they're still just winning and winning and winning. And now you look up outside of that Notre Dame loss, they'd be right in the playoff mix. 2 weeks ago, they've already clinched a spot in the conference championship game. So, I think they're very much now on people's radars, not to the extent of, the usual suspects. But I think now people realize as we get towards the end here of, the fact North Carolina's pretty good, but they're also pretty good because they've got, probably a future number 1 overall pick at quarterback, but not this year because he's not eligible just yet. So enjoy him while he's around college football because he's a good one.
Drake May or Hendon Hooker if you had an All-American quarterback?
Drake May.
Yeah. Okay. All right. When we come back, a couple other nuggets to get to. Plus, we'll also have Mack Rhoades today at 4:20. Craig's off the radar. That's just the next hour. We have Jack today in the studio. Jacob is in the studio. So is Garrett Ross, and Emery and Levi are both somewhere creating havoc wherever they might be. This is 365 Sports. Pickup Outfitters, we've told you about what they have. And what they have is their 25th anniversary sale. 25 years at Pickup Outfitters. Now, their owner, Jay Arrett, has not been there all 25 years. But what he has done in a short amount of time is phenomenal. Here's what they have available. And if you have a pickup truck, SUV, whatever vehicle it is, and you want accessories added to it or changed, they have the opportunity right now for you to celebrate. Now through Thanksgiving, purchase one item, get the second item of equal or lesser value at 25% off. Here's some examples. Buy a bed cover, get a spray and liner for 25% off. Buy a grill guard, get running boards at 25% off. This also works if you have multiple vehicles. Buy a toolbox for one truck, get a toolbox for the second truck at 25% off. Also, giving away $4,000 worth of prizes, including $1,000 in truck accessories, a 12,000-pound winch, a set of 4 FabTech Stealth Shocks, a 12-volt fridge cooler, 1 month subscription to Netflix. In fact, multiple subscriptions to Netflix, no purchase necessary. Lots of swag, lots of glitz and glamour for your truck, your vehicle, your SUV. Go by and say, Jay, hey, appreciate you. Hear about you on 365 Sports. Happy birthday. Save lots of money. Win some prizes. Pickup Outfitters, createacommotion.com at 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Car Motors, we are people you can count on.
Let
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Squirrel Williams, the running back on 3rd down and 9. The tight end Johnson goes in motion over the middle. It's tipped and intercepted. Savage has got it.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Vaughn's got the ball. He's got a first down and more. Across midfield, breaking tackles, and inside the 40 of Baylor. Deuce got loose, and the Cats are rolling.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Hope you're having a great day. This is 365 Sports every afternoon, 3 until 6. Our pregame for Baylor and TCU will be Saturday morning, 9 o'clock. And we'll be on the Big Bird on KWTX from 9 until 10:30, the game at McClain Stadium.
Sorry about your cartoons.
Oh, God. From Dennis Haiti, UNC and and Virginia both have undergrad enrollments under 20,000, acceptance rates under 25%, different from every Big Ten school other than Northwestern and Michigan. We talk about the question Craig brought up about what's going on with them. Maybe just looking into the future if there's any kind of peek into that. KG 365 Sports needs a USC helmet.
Yeah.
Yes, we do. We would like to have one of those. That'd be
Fight
nice.
on.
Fight on.
Would love to have a USC helmet here put up, and maybe something to analyze in the offseason and shake it up a little bit. We're Big 12 heavy, but we could always expand our horizons.
We got we have some American squads that are about to be Big 12 too.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, they're basically in the Big 12 now. So, but yeah, good idea is to get some USC and quite a few others that we could add on as well.
Whoever makes the Final Four, the semifinals, will get those helmets. A lot of times, by the way, the school sent those to us, and maybe we'll have one for TCU that's a larger one at the end of the week before our pregame show on Saturday. And we had one of our most loyal viewers was not happy with our helmet placement last week because we didn't have Baylor up, but we did. We had a black Baylor helmet behind, I think it was my left shoulder, and facing a K-State helmet. And it was up. And so I'm not sure why that was a concern, but it was up. And we let Jack and Garrett and Jacob handle the backdrop. I'm not allowed to touch them.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, I mean, you can. It's not Fabergé eggs. They did a good job of rounding those up and getting in, getting in the zone of collecting a lot of those before the season started. So, yeah, probably have to do a round 2 to just freshen things up, spring cleanup. But they did an excellent job of getting all the Big 12.
Yeah,
so.
put a UCLA helmet right here behind me since they're my new favorite fan base.
Yeah.
Yeah, they should. They should send you one of those. And then again
now you're getting a KU helmet for Christmas, but we already got that, right?
Yeah, we already got that.
Are you allowed to do that?
Yeah. I just,
There was a chat room discussion with you a minute ago.
Look, I'm very aware of how it is. I gave up most of my free will when I let her move in, so it was the choice I made.
562. Any update on when the app will be reinstated? Just look at my face.
Great question.
It is a very, 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 very frustrating situation, and it is for our partners. There's no way in the world that this would have ever been able to be something we wanted to get done had we known it was going to take as long as it has, especially since it's going to nuke out most of the football season, if not all of it. And it is kind of one of those things. It's a great idea, but it's unfortunate it's not up yet. And we thought July, then we thought August, and then finally I just gave up thinking about it. And believe me, we have a sponsor.
Thanks for bringing it up. Really sore subject.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
But it's a fair question.
Yeah, I ask that question every few weeks, and I don't know. It's out of our hands, but for those that don't know, we got to remember that not everybody's watched everything. We had an app when we first started this thing, and it was really convenient that you could just pop the app up and, like anything else, listen to the show, and you didn't have to just be on YouTube or stick to just one thing. And unfortunately, the developer of the new version that they're, I guess, in the process of building up is going brick by brick, I guess. And we haven't had it all football season, so hopefully that changes soon.
Hopefully it's supposed to be, when it's done, it's going to be bigger, better, faster, and stronger to help handle what we push out every day. When we come back, Baylor's Director of Athletics, Mack Rhoades, and this is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, GMC Buick Cadillac. They got a lot of great deals going on right now over at Richard Carr. They got a lot of great vehicles right now over at Richard Carr. Over the last year, talking about the dealership and, talking about my own experiences with them going and getting repairs over at Richard Carr, even though I didn't buy my vehicle from them originally. Just being able to speak to the great customer service they had is nice. But one thing that's extra nice right now is you can actually speak about new vehicles. That wasn't always the case over the last year. Supply chain issues, shortage of microchips, you name it. There's been kind of havoc wreaked on the car industry. And so the lot sometimes would be a little bit sparse if you went by dealerships over the last few months. Well, that is changing. Business is picking up as far as new vehicles arriving, and they've got plenty of pre-owned cars and trucks as well right now at Richard Carr. 2022 GMCs, Sierras, Acadias, and Terrains are on the lot waiting for you to test drive today. They've also got Cadillac XT4 and XT5 SUVs available for a test drive. And inventory, as you can imagine, now that it's arrived, is going fast. So get on over for the best selection while you can. When it comes to the Sierra, it's got a lot of great bells and whistles, strong steel bed, a multi-pro tailgate, advanced collision avoidance, luxurious interior, massive touch screens, 14 camera views, premium comfort, in-class towing, you name it, and that's just one vehicle that they're offering up. So if that sounds good to you, check out the GMC Sierra right now over at Richard Carr. It's waiting for you to test drive. So are pre-owned vehicles. If you're not in the market for new, they've got plenty of pre-owned cars and trucks, dozens of them, in fact, in stock, and all have undergone a 172-point inspection, so you can drive them with peace of mind. And if you're worried about the financial part of it, well, they've got multiple lending options, and they love to say yes to loans when others say no. Again, check out the people that you can count on for over 23 years in Central Texas, run by proud Wacoans, proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
Make a winning drive to Genco and refinance your vehicle. Every loan can skip monthly payments for 90 days with rates as low as 3.75% APR for 48 months. Right now is the time to make a play. At Genco, we save you money by helping you pay less for your car. Every loan scores no payments for 90 days. Then have a chance to win 3 more months of no payments. Apply online today for an additional discount of 0.15% off our already low rates. Subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. For more information, go to GencoFCU.org. Member NCUA.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
Did you know Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco is open to the public? Next time you're in town for a Baylor athletic event or you're in town for tourism, take advantage of their day passes for $10 a piece or the weekend for $30. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers 40 group exercise classes, including indoor cycling and yoga, boot camp, and bar. New free weights, weight machines, TRX rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, new elliptical machines, and a spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, and Alec Botch, where you will be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, kids club, 16 tennis courts, and 8 pickleball courts, and youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons available. Waco's premier experience where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit wacotennis.com or visit them next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Our weekly segment with Baylor Director of Athletics Mack Rhoades is brought to you by Edward Jones Investment Brokers, Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, Cam Heathcott, and Chuck Verno. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Here we go with Mack Rhoades, Baylor's Director of Athletics, Craig Smoak to my right, Paul Catalina to my left, and Mack Rhoades on the line with us on 365 Sports. Mack, there's no question fans are frustrated. How would you describe the feelings within the football program, and how do you approach a situation after what we saw or maybe did not see Saturday night?
Yeah, I think, one, grateful for our fans. We talked about it a week ago, and I think there was frustration, such a big game, and, we were still probably at the time 6,000 tickets short of, reaching a sellout, and, grateful for Todd Behringer and grateful for our fans to come out and sell it out and, really have a great environment. And so, you do all of that, people respond, people are excited, the night game, and then, we didn't play well. And so, I'd probably say that, frustration following the game within the program, within the athletic department was probably as high as it's been all season long. And, there've been some moments of frustration. We talked about it following the West Virginia game. I know that, Dave was really frustrated. I think you could see or see it, certainly visually, but also hear it, in his voice, the post-game press conference. Personally, I was frustrated. And that's not to take anything away from Kansas State. That's a really, really good football team. But we didn't come out and play well. And it showed. And nobody was happy about it, believe me.
There's no question a week ago, you were discussing the lack of ticket sales. They were lagging behind. A student group got behind what they wanted to call a blackout, and it seemed to gain a lot of momentum. And eventually it was a full throttle. And as you mentioned, Behringer bought a lot of tickets. Was there when you kind of called out the fans a little bit because the lagging ticket sales, were you frustrated with them, or were you just trying to get their attention? Because I think some of them might have gotten their feelings hurt.
Well, I mean this sincerely. If I hurt anybody's feelings, I certainly, am sorry about that. That's not our intent. It's not my intent, but I think it was to grab people's attention. This is a big game, and their presence, the importance of their presence is huge. Whether fans believe that or not, that's such a big part of it. You'll hear Scott Drew talk about, and this is why, we've been really intentional about the capacity of the pavilion, the energy or the lack of energy if your student athletes walk on out there onto the court or the football field, and it's not capacity, and it's not electric. And the head coach in the locker room can give the best all-time motivation speech, in their career. And nonetheless, if the team walks out there and it's not capacity and it's not sold out for a big game, that doesn't matter what type of motivational speech the head coach gives. And so, I think that's the part that, that's important, that our fans mean a lot. They mean a lot in terms of the success we have and providing that home field advantage. And, that was a big game. And unfortunately, again, it's on us that we didn't play well. But they provide such a big lift for us, that it's important that, we can have capacity crowds, at every game. And when we think about, the top 25 programs traditionally, when you think about the Blue Bloods, they're sold out all the time, or a great majority of the time, no matter who they're playing. And we want to build that here. I think you've heard me talk about, this needs to be a destination place. It needs to be a destination place for head coaches. It needs to be a destination place for staff. It needs to be a destination place for athletic directors, et cetera. And I think we're in the process of doing that. I don't think we're there yet, but I think we're in that process. I think, the national media and people around us, I think Fox, thinks we're in that process and we're on that and we're on the way. But, the fans coming out to our games are a big part of it. And so we need them. And again, I'm really, and I think I can say this on behalf of Coach Aranda, because I believe he said it publicly as well. Really grateful for our fans showing up and selling out the Kansas State game.
Mac, the fan-led blackout kind of came up on you guys last week, and you pivoted and endorsed it and all that. How can you get out in front of those things in the future so that maybe you wouldn't have had to pivot during the week and deal with, well, why don't you have black uniforms? Well, we didn't have black uniforms. We did the rebrand and all these kind of simple things that maybe fans didn't know and expected on Saturday night.
Yeah, Paul, I think it's an interesting question, when you position it that way, getting out in front. I felt like when, we went through the rebrand process with Nike, the goal at the time, and I think it's still our goal, was to double down on our school colors. And when you think about Blue Bloods out there and some of the traditional schools that, year in, year out, they're nationally relevant, they're pretty true to their colors. And so we made that intentional decision to really double down on the green and gold. And, if you look at our licensing revenue, over the past years since we did that and doubled down on our school colors, licensing revenue certainly indicates that people have embraced it. It has been well received by our recruits, prospective student athletes, et cetera. So it's worked well. And I don't think there's anybody, that has a disdain for black. And, we've had, over the course of the last 3 or 4 years, some accent, one-off uniforms, but foundationally, we're going to continue to be the double down on the green and gold. And, that's who we are, and that's what we want to be known for. I'm glad it worked out. I'm glad fans got excited about the blackout, and we were able to do that. Is that why it sold out? I don't know. I would like to think that certainly maybe that, got some people excited, but it was also about, being at McClain Stadium, and they're supporting our football team in a really, really big game.
And Mac, I do think it's worth saying as well that not everybody took your comments or Joe Vaughn or anybody else, as, and so I think it just kind of depends on probably who you ask. I think a lot of people just saw a call to arms, basically, is what you guys were trying to do as well. So I think it's, like I said, kind of dependent on probably who you talk to there. But good to hear, some clarity, and good to hear you talk it out there. So I know this question will be inevitable. And I don't care so much about the uniforms, but I know this question will come up. So if anybody brings this up again about why don't we have black uniforms, would that be on the table at all anytime in the near future, or should people who are worried about that or want that just get that out of their mind for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, it's a fair question, and I want to be really transparent on how I answer that. I think to say never, that's a long time.
Okay.
And maybe there's a moment in time, and I don't know if that's 3 years from now, 2 years from now, 7 years from now, when we feel really, really good about who we are, we've established ourselves, that we're not trying to be, use a gimmick to establish our brand, right? It's we have been predominantly, this green and gold. It's our school colors, and now, hey, you know what? We're gonna have some fun, and we're gonna throw in a black uniform, or whatever color that uniform is. And so, I wouldn't say never. Do I think it's going to happen tomorrow or next year? Probably not, because we're still on this path where we're really trying to emphasize and double down on on the school colors and be nationally relevant and grow our brand that way. So I hope that answers the question. And, Craig, look, I appreciate your previous comment. I don't think I'd be doing my job as leader of this athletics program if, I wasn't challenging myself, and it always starts there, but challenging our coaches, our staff, our student athletes, and even our fans to build this thing so that, again, we are, a powerhouse, and that we are a destination place, and that we are, nationally relevant every year. Every other year doesn't work for me. And this place can be that, and it should be that. And that's what we're going to continue to fight, scratch, and claw and do every single day. And I think, we're close, and I think we'll get there.
And I'm not trying to kiss up or anything, but I think it is worth mentioning that you guys have gone the Sailor Bear route, and I don't think that was originally necessarily in the plans. But like you said, you pivoted before, so just good to know that, and good that people have an answer. So I do appreciate that.
Well,
Mack,
I appreciate the question.
Mack, when the surge began about Tuesday or Wednesday of last week, with the fan base trying to come up with something, and I don't know how it started. Maybe it was on social media, whatever. We even started getting people saying things to us. There was a plan, I think, in place that you guys were going to honor veterans, the military, and first responders, and that was a part of it. But I don't know if I ever really saw that. What was the thought in the middle of the week when you saw this surge of what people wanted to do? Was there what was that like, the decision making? Was it like trying to maybe, no, we have to do it our way? Or was there eventually, damn it, we just need to make sure we sell out the stadium. Let's go.
Oh, I think, transparently the conversation was, and I can't remember what morning it was. I think it was, some of that started to gain momentum in terms of the blackout, maybe Tuesday night, because I was actually texting, quite frankly, with the donor, and talking about it until about 10 p.m. and then some others. And so I think it was Tuesday night. And then, Wednesday morning, it's, let's go. If this means as much as it seems to mean, and, and there's some momentum behind it and people are excited about it, let's go. That's what it takes to sell it out. Then let's go. If that in the moment, that particular moment, and that got everybody excited. So, there wasn't a whole lot of hesitation, or, I think, if people want to wear, certainly not. I think the conversation actually was, as long as it's not purple, let's go. Let's just get it, sold out at capacity, and make this a really, really difficult environment for Kansas State.
You have an older fan base, and of course you have this youth infusion of the students as the student body and enrollment gets larger. Paul brought this up to me earlier this week, or earlier today. Is there a kind of a, Dave Aranda used that tug of war when it comes to his team getting ready for games each week. Is there a tug of war between the new infusion of diehard fans who's ready to go compared to the older, maybe, I don't know, Paul, you used the word subdued fan base, because they're also ones that put a lot of money inside of a lot of things with their names on buildings. Is there a tug of war there in a way?
That's a great question, because I think it's something that, not just Baylor, but I think everybody nationally, it's a conversation that, Commissioner Yormark and I have had in terms of, the Big 12 brand and being cool and hip, and, how do you do that without, disenfranchising your core fans, and compromising them. And so, I think that's always a conversation, and trying to find that right balance. It certainly is a conversation for us. We've got this core, and making sure that we continue to resonate with them, but at the same time, right, we've got to be able to attract new and infuse some different ideas, and maybe even some non-traditional things. And so I think that's always a conversation and discussion, and trying to thread that needle. And I think you can do both. I really do. And I think that's what we try to do all the time is find that right balance. And again, I get it. Some people could argue we don't do it enough, or some people, well, we're getting too non-traditional. And so there's always that tug and pull, as you mentioned. But again, I think there's a way to do both, and that's going to always remain our challenge.
Shouldn't the game itself last week, and then I'll move on to this week, and Craig and Paul have theirs as well, a chance to stay alive in the Big 12 championship race, the first night game in 2 years, shouldn't that alone be enough with what has been accomplished the last 10 or 12 years to get people excited no matter what color uniforms they wear or anything else?
I think that's a really good question. And, we live in a day and age, and we deal with it, every day with our young people, and just all of the distractions and the different things that are going on now. And, you see it across the country. And so, the simple, easy, answer is yes, you would think so. But, I think as we continue to evolve, and I think that's a really key word, as we as an athletic department continue to evolve, as our fan bases, our particular fan base, the Baylor family, continues to evolve, we're always going to have to check that pulse. And, again, you'd like to think that, that's the case. You think about some places like Nebraska, how many consecutive sellouts, and they haven't won as many games as what they've had in the past, and all of that. And, and so, that's the fight that, we want our fans out here no matter who we play. And certainly, look, I absolutely 100% agree. I think winning games is a big part of it. We need to have a great product, and for us, it's obviously much deeper than just the product. It's the process. It's how we develop our young people. So, hey, we got to do our part. And here's what I'll say. Quite frankly, we didn't, when we look at, how we performed, we didn't do our part on Saturday, but we'll get better. And I've got great faith and confidence in Coach Aranda. His names aren't coming up in all of these searches that are going on right now for nothing, right? His name is coming up because people know how good of a leader he is, and how good of a football coach he is.
So, Mack, there is more to play for. There's more games. There's your big home finale coming up this Saturday. And, not only is it a, 11 a.m. kickoff, and, should be nice weather and all that. It's the unbeaten TCU Horned Frogs, an arch rival who's kind of had their way with this rivalry the last few years, but also Big Noon Kickoff is coming to town as well. I think I was reading what the second time for them in history, and I know that show hadn't been around for forever, but I think just like the fifth time maybe in Baylor history between Big Noon and Game Day having visited over the last few years. So how big of an opportunity is this? And do you think it comes at a right time when you've got all this other stuff in the work, or is that, outside noise again that the team has to be careful with?
Yeah, no, it's exciting. It is. And you mentioned, you think about ESPN Game Day here in 2019, and then obviously 20, the COVID year, but then last year, Big Noon kickoff here, and then again, back to back. And so, what that does say is that Fox really values Baylor University, and I think that's values our football program, values our people, values our fan base. I think if you ask the Fox people, we treat them as well, and that's everybody. That's our fans. That's our staff. That's our coaching staff. Right? Everybody treats them exceptionally well, and so they feel good about it. Obviously, TCU and being undefeated and CFP is a big part of it. As well, and they believe that this is going to be a great matchup, and so do I. I think it's when we think about, future scheduling, with 14 teams and then with 12 teams and not playing, everybody, every year anymore, like we can do now with just 10, I think it's safe to say that we'll play TCU every year because that's a rivalry that means something, to both programs, and it means something to both fan bases. So this is a really big game and an exciting game, and what a great opportunity for our football program and for our university and everybody to be on national display again. When we think about, Fox Big Noon, Big Noon Saturday, Big Noon kickoff here at McClain Stadium.
As an athletic director, you can't maybe go as deep as a run-of-the-mill fan, but how deep do you get into the rivalry? Because, Baylor, this is probably the biggest rival now, especially with Texas leaving the conference. There's not really one that you could say is on equal footing of it, but you as an athletic director and administration, do you guys get up for the rivalry games a little bit more?
That's I do appreciate that question, and I'm trying to think about it as you were asking it, right? I would say yes. I've got great respect for TCU and their athletic director. Jeremiah is a dear friend, and we talk. Not maybe every week, but we certainly have a friendship and mutual respect for one another, and their chancellor, and so. Yeah, I would say that, on Saturday, I'm not making any friendly phone calls to Jeremiah, and his food may be cold and sweet. So
cold nachos.
Yeah, and but yeah, I do. I think I can say our staff gets up for it. I know I do, because it is, and there's the in-state rivalries mean something, and you think about recruiting and bragging rights and all of that stuff, and that's to me the beauty of college football. That's the piece. It's it's the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat, and that's probably highlighted even more when you play one of your rivals.
Mack, as someone who's leading an entire athletic department, and I know Dr. Livingstone is the president, you have to make decisions that are not always going to make maybe even more than a majority happy. When did you get to a point in your career when you realized you would have to do things, whether it's tailgating or whether it's uniforms or whether it's whatever, where you did not allow the emotions to get in the way?
That's appreciate that question. I think that's the way I was taught growing up. And then, beyond my parents, people that I really respected as leaders. You've heard me say this, there's no one person bigger than this institution, than this program. And I think if you start to make decisions based on what makes you look good and filter things that way, or what makes most of the people happy, right? I think you quickly get off the tracks. And I think it's always about, what is the best decision for our organization, for our program, and what moves us forward the best way. And that's not always the popular decision. And so, but I've never worried about, and this is just me, I've never worried about making the popular decisions. I've always worried about making the best decision. And that's got to be, about our organization and the whole. And, it's worked up to this point in time. And, I think that's the way you lead. And that's the way I'll continue to lead. I'll always worry about what is the best decision.
Do you feel like the Office of Fan Engagement is getting to a point now where you almost have to have it grow, even not like the NIL, because that came out of nowhere? Do you feel like that is something that you as a group need to kind of get back into the roots of Waco? Because there's been kind of a love-hate relationship with Baylor and the city of Waco. There mainly was A&M in Texas, if you see. But now you see a lot of Baylor, and then all of a sudden it kind of comes and goes. Do you feel like you might even need more due diligence with fan engagement within the city of Waco to bring that group into McClain or to the new pavilion or elsewhere?
Yeah, I think that's an area that I think we've evolved in, and I think that we need to, quite frankly, continue to evolve in. I think we've got some really talented and good people there, and I think we've made some progress there, and we need to continue to make more. And so if we stay stagnant, we're never going to get where we want to be. And so that's certainly a growing area and an opportunity for us to continue to grow. I think about, some of the conversations that we have internally and some of the things and how we're trying to evolve. It's like, for instance, and you've heard me say this, it's not about what we have, it's about who we are. Well, how do we do that? How do we communicate, the who we are? And, we've got to double down in areas of creative services and social media content and the fan engagement piece. And, Javon does a great job of leading that area. And it's a challenge when you think about budgets and you think about all of the NCAA deregulation, and I'll give you an example, the whole Alston case, the Alston versus NCAA, and now, providing this $5,980, per student athlete. Well, we're one of 5 in the Big 12 that's going to do that and provide that amount, not just for our full scholarship student athletes, but for our equivalent scholarship student athletes. Well, that's a real cost. That's $2.2 million per year. That was new to our budget this year. And so you're always trying to manage that, and you're trying to, when you think about it, you're trying to invest in the areas that have the ability to provide the best return on an investment. So we're focused on the fan engagement area. We're focused on the creative services area. It's a continued conversation, and we're going to continue to grow and evolve. And there's a lot of opportunity there for us.
Do you feel like Virginia's going to be in the mindset for that game to happen in Vegas later in the week in basketball?
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. because what happened there is so tragic. And, you know, we obviously, if you're in this business long enough, you get to know quite a few people, and this is a small industry. And, you know, I hate it for Virginia. I hate it for Carla. I hate it for just, you know, Tony. I hate it just that entire Virginia family. And, you know, I don't know how it impacts, you know, the game, you know, the game Friday, and but there's no doubt, you know, it will be on our minds, and I'm sure it's on the men's basketball team's minds, and just, you know, when stuff like that happens, it's about brotherhood, sisterhood, friendship, love, trying to support any way you can, and, you know, they'll remain, you know, in our prayers and our thoughts. And, you know, man, I can't even imagine the parents in those families what they're going through. So we'll continue to pray for them, and that God wraps them all up in His arms, and just loves up on them, and provides them as peace and understanding, and that they can feel that.
Thank you, Mack. Appreciate your time. Mack Rhoades, Baylor Director of Athletics, with us on Tuesday, most every Tuesday around 4:20, and we appreciate his time. Coming up next, Craig Smoak's Off the Radar, J.J. Joe, former Baylor quarterback, and also John McClain and Paul's Top 5. This is 365 Sports. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco. Ashley, Cheyenne, and Carol, knowledgeable about all the products they have, and not just cigars. Happy to put together any size of cigar you want or whatever flavor, and they have coffee beans, pipe and pipe tobacco, CBD and THC assortment of products for you. Any kind of gift you need for Christmas, they can put something together for you, even any kind of a gift bag if you want. Holidays are, of course, here. Basically, Thanksgiving is a week from Thursday, Christmas time, and then the New Year's. And maybe even a stressful time for you. Drop by and look at their CBD, legal THC, and legal mushroom products at Don Humidor and Coffee Beans. An extensive, diverse selection for all kinds of relaxation, stress release for you and your pets. They have several new coffees for the holidays, cooler weather. Make the best cup of coffee in town in your own kitchen. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in a 48-foot walk-in humidor in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
I'm going to tell you a tale of two companies founded 25 years ago. The first, Pickup Outfitters, started as a little shop on Lake Erie Drive by a local company selling the truck bumpers they were making in Waco. Then, 6 years ago, new ownership took up the cause of battling vehicle nudity, vowing to fight until there were no more naked trucks in Central Texas. And so far, they estimate they've outfitted more than 40,000 trucks at Pickup Outfitters. Now, the second company's story is not as impressive. They too started 25 years ago, but didn't have the vision of Pickup Outfitters, and to date, they have not outfitted one single naked truck in 25 years. So we'll celebrate the 25th anniversary of Pickup Outfitters with money-saving specials and valuable prizes. The second company will support them too by giving away 25 one-month subscriptions to their online service called Netflix. Save and win the Pickup Outfitters 25th anniversary celebration through Thanksgiving. Details online at createacommotion.com.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Nitschke Group Insurance Agency. With the Nitschke Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Nitschke Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Nitschke Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for Craig Smoak's Off the Radar. Brought to you by Pickup Outfitters. Since 1997, we've been outfitting trucks, SUVs, and vans at 220 Lake Air Drive or createacommotion.com.
All right, welcome into Off the Radar here on 365 Sports. Taking a look at some stories that aren't in our normal frame of talking. I guess that's not entirely true. There is some college football that I'm going to get to here in a second, and we talk mostly college football. So it's not completely off the radar, but I will sprinkle in some things that we don't normally talk about, like Major League Baseball or occasionally UFC. What an event this past weekend that was. But I am going to start off with college football and probably take most of that here in this segment because it is a Tuesday, which means that we've got the ratings from this past weekend. And you know what? Initially, I was like, I'm not going to fall into the trap of like milking everything and make it a thing. But you know what? I am going to take over college football rating talk on YouTube. And here we go with some college football. Every Tuesday in this segment, we will bring up the college football ratings and talk about those to what extent it's worth talking about. And looking at this past weekend, surprise, surprise, it was the SEC on top of the rankings, but nothing like the ratings that we saw the week prior in Week 10 when Tennessee and Georgia were drawing 13 million. And that was just an astronomical number. This past weekend, the highest ranked game, 3.57 million. So a drop-off of nearly 10 million people from the highest watched broadcast the weekend before. It wasn't a different window that previous week with the 13 million between Tennessee and Georgia wasn't that CBS 330. But the highest watched game this past weekend was LSU and Arkansas. 3.57 million viewers on noon ESPN broadcast. I also had Georgia, Mississippi State with 3.34 million viewers. Louisville, Clemson, 1.35. Wisconsin, Iowa, 1.09, and then Stanford, Utah, just a shade over 1 million at 1.04. How could, is that just speaking to what a lackluster weekend on paper this was? Because, man, there were some banger numbers the week before. You had 13 million, 8 million, 4.5 million, 3 million, 3 million, 2 million, 2 million. There's only 5 games that went above 1 million viewers this past weekend. That's wild to me.
Somebody in the chat room, and if you're listening or still watching us, get back on there and tell me why you said you expected the numbers to be down. And I don't remember.
Is it a holiday weekend?
No. Well, Veterans Day was Friday, but I don't think that was it.
But that's 10 million down from your previous week's high. And now granted, LSU,
You've also
Arkansas
had some mega games too.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Is that it's just not. There's not mega games. This was just a sign of the schedule, I think is what I just said a moment ago. It must be because there was a dramatic drop-off. The week prior, you had like 15 games that got 1 million viewers or more, and there were 5, with the highest one being 3.5 million. So massive drop-off. Obviously, LSU's good, but Arkansas is struggling this season, so that makes sense. Mississippi State is, if it was LSU, Georgia, then it probably would have been 10 million, but because they were playing, I guess, not so hot teams, then that played into it. But yeah, for what it's worth, Kansas State, Baylor, that was a borderline top 10 watched game this weekend, and a blowout at that, 528,000 viewers. And that was nearly top 10. So very low weekend as far as college football eyeballs go in comparison to what we've seen over the past few weeks. But interesting to see that. Also, elsewhere around college football, did you get that? We got another new Tennessee uniform alert. Orange helmets, baby. They had the black that we showed you. What was that, about 2 weeks ago, I think? And now Josh Heupel and company breaking out the orange helmet this weekend. So, yeah, I saw a couple of people go, I don't know, probably more traditionalists. Maybe you're older fans. I don't know. Maybe just young traditional uniform folks. But saw a lot of people plenty hyped about this. I think with the white, it looks good. Somebody did a mock-up where, like, they showed Milton in all, like, white on white, but somebody replaced the white pants with orange pants. And it looked very Clemson-y, but unique too, and that looked kind of cool. And like somebody, I think, responded like, well, maybe next week, because obviously Heupel's not afraid to break out new duds. So what do y'all think about Tennessee's orange helmets?
I don't like those.
You don't like them? Okay.
I like them. I like them with the, if they go the all whites. If they do the orange pants, then it looks too much like Clemson.
Okay, fair enough. What do you think, Garrett?
I liked it.
Okay.
I think they were clean.
Yeah, I think they look pretty sharp. So
put that back up.
Like creamsicle orange?
It is cream. It's like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
It's very Clemson, though. You can see where it's very Clemson-y. So, yeah, I could see that being something that, people would rather not, have it that close. But that's what they'll be rocking coming up this weekend against Vanderbilt. So breaking it out for the big guns, obviously.
If you can play the way they are, wear whatever the hell you want, right?
No, yeah, absolutely. I'm not complaining at all. Elsewhere, you got Tennessee with some new uniforms. We're talking about sellouts and, attendance and, a lot of it has to do with if you're winning. And yeah, there are programs like Nebraska that sell out after sellout after sellout. I know that even with Nebraska, there's like a little bit of a catch there because there are, tickets that are given away to less needy or, just those dealing with, special needs issues or whatever the charitable, reasoning may be. That happens where you buy a little extra to sell out, but it's not as though like Baylor is the only one that's dealt with it, or Nebraska even for that matter. Saw a tweet earlier where UCLA is claiming a sellout of the Rose Bowl, despite the fact that there are about 20,000 seats that will be covered in tarps. So they announced this big sellout coming up this weekend, and it's going to be like 70-something thousand. I had it a second ago, and I guess I accidentally deleted it. The exact number.
70,000.
70-something thousand, but the Rose Bowl, I believe, is 90,000-ish as far as attendance goes. So everybody kind of dabbles with the term sellout if you really think about it. Now, by no means am I making fun of 70,000-plus people. That's a great mark. It's many more that were in Waco last weekend, almost twice as much probably. But everybody has fun with numbers.
Well, and look, Baylor had tarp for a long time.
At the old place, yeah.
At Floyd Casey that they, took a lot of heat for. I will tell you this, though. I do think part of the reason they haven't pulled that tarp, even though they could probably sell those tickets, is I think they're a little concerned as to who would buy those tickets this week.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
I think if they pulled the tarp and unleashed the 20,000 extra tickets, the majority of them would not be wearing powder blue. They would be wearing whatever UCLA shade of red that is.
Yeah.
What is it?
You mean
Scarlet?
USC shaded
What-
red?
Yeah, USC.
Scarlet, right? Is it
yeah,
Scarlet?
Yeah, I guess they're Scarlet. Yeah,
Or
so
is it Cardinal?
yeah,
Yeah.
they
Or
would
is it
be
Garnet?
Yeah, no, I think it's
Or is
Garnet.
it Crimson?
Yeah, there's a
Or
lot.
is it-
Pantone 201C.
There we go. That's
I mean, if you
USC
get real-
Cardinal, USC
Cardinal.
gold.
Yeah, there you go.
So, yeah, but I think there would be a lot more USC fans because frankly, there's just more USC fans there than there are UCLA fans. And
Yeah, especially when they're both good.
Yeah.
Well, 70,885, the official mark, but there will be about 20,000 of those seats that will be covered. And if you've watched UCLA games, that very easy to spot tarp in the stands that will cover up some of that. So a sellout, maybe a little bit of an asterisk next to that, but that ought to be a lot of fun in LA for the folks who are, hopefully enjoying a good brand of football right now. And obviously what's going to be the biggest, Battle of Los Angeles in, I don't know how long, quite frankly, where the two of them have been, and I'm sure it's been written in every article about this game. I just don't know off the top of my head that, but I imagine this is the biggest buildup in quite some time for that game, as much as there can be out in that area. Elsewhere, tonight, you got college basketball. You mentioned the Champions Classic earlier. That's really got the massive doubleheader that'll be starting here soon at 6 Central. All my times will always be in Central because we're here in Texas. At 6 on ESPN, Kentucky at Michigan State, to be followed at around 8:30 by Duke versus Kansas. And I did see one note that Dickie V will be returning to the broadcast booth for the first time since having to take another step away, and the first time since being declared cancer-free back in August, I believe that was. He will be back calling games tonight for the Champions Classic, and couldn't really draw up two better games for a doubleheader like tonight with Kentucky, Michigan State, and then KU and Duke. So ought to be a lot of fun, and we'll just fill Paul in on what we watched, I guess, tomorrow, since you won't be watching.
Yeah, I've been told that we're not watching it, so
yeah, we'll let you know how it all unfolded. But I'm sure you will. If they win, you will hear all about it, every little detail, right?
I'm going to tell you, 50% of us in the house are going to watch that game. I at least.
All right. Well, wrapping it up here because I know we do need to run. Massive TV ratings number for Cowboys and Packers on Sunday.
I heard about this.
29.2 million people watch Cowboys and Packers on Fox. Most watched game of the season on any network. Also the top regular season audience since last Christmas Day on Fox and NFL Network's joint broadcast of the Browns and Packers. So huge number, nearly 30 million people tuning in to see the Packers come back again with the great Aaron Rodgers and defeat the Cowboys again. And man, I'm telling you, when they went up 14 late in that game, I thought this thing is over.
Oh, toast.
Thought this was over, and I look up a few minutes later, and sure enough, no, it was not.
What has two thumbs and lives in fear of Aaron Rodgers? This guy right here.
Yeah.
I knew it all too well. Just by comparison, Yellowstone's 2-hour premiere, which was a record-shattering premiere on cable television. 12 million people watched the Yellowstone Season 5 2-hour premiere. That's 17 million between the two broadcasts. That's why the NFL and then by extension live sports are worth money because of that.
That's 16 million more for that regular season game than you got for that 13 million or close to 14 million for Tennessee, Alabama the week prior, right? Mm-hmm. Double the number for them. Also, very much off the radar, I think, for most. XFL held their first day of their draft as The Rock gets set to relaunch the formerly owned Vince McMahon League. Vince McMahon not even in charge of WWE anymore. But The Rock in charge of the XFL. They had their draft first day. They'll have a second day tomorrow. But day one featured all your skill guys, all your fronts and your secondary, your linemen. Tomorrow will be all the specialists. So I would guess that
your day today was quarterbacks. Tomorrow is the specialist.
My day early?
Yes.
Okay.
So quarterbacks today, Jalen McClendon, former Baylor quarterback.
I'm reading Wednesday. Yep, you're right. Sorry.
Former Baylor quarterback got selected by Vegas. I believe the first pick in the draft was the St. Louis Battlehawks. Took A.J. McCarron, Alabama quarterback, who we all remember.
And
kind of tells us the quality of player in this league right off the bat.
Steven Montez from Colorado got drafted.
Good for him.
DeAndre Francois, who played at Florida State, is going to Orlando. There's a lot others. The names you recognize. Some of them you may, some of them you may not.
McClain, NC State to Baylor, right?
Yeah, he's going to Vegas.
And that was to compete with Charlie Brewer.
I actually had the list up here, and I should have sent it to you, Craig.
Yeah, I got it. Eric Dungy may ring a bell going to D.C. Yeah, I mean, I think college football fans will definitely recognize Juwan Pass and
Gucci Danucci.
Danucci.
Former Cowboys quarterback going to Seattle. So
Danucci.
Yeah, McClendon because his time in Waco jumps off the page of me, and then Montez as well because he's from El Paso. But and DeAndre Francois, I was a big fan of him when he was doing his thing for Florida State and just trying to stay healthy. But, yeah, they had their first day, so then tomorrow will be all the rest of the crew, and then Thursday will be the specialist group, and the XFL is launching early next year, so there's a few things off the radar.
A lot of good stuff. Thank you very much to cover many of the things that perhaps we don't get to from the start of the show, especially on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Coming up next, JJ Joe, Baylor Radio, also former quarterback at Baylor. We'll have John McClain at Deshaun Watson's back to working out and plays early December. That and much more. This and Paul's Top 5, 365 Sports. Don's Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco is who I talked about the last commercial break, right? So I'm pivoting here in the paint. So now let's talk about City of Woodway. And right now they have a lot of construction and a lot of renovation on a lot of what they do as far as a lot of their buildings and trails and much, much more. But they still have the Carling Bright Arboretum, the pavilion, which can host incredible events, whether it might be yours. It could be something that is a rehearsal dinner, a wedding, could be a big business meeting, symposium, and it could be a banquet or fundraiser. It's there. It's unbelievable. I would think that most likely their schedule is very much loaded up, but you never know. Go to discoverwoodway.com for more information. And on top of that, with the holiday season approaching, with Magnolia, of course, this week, I just saw something on the chat room. Somebody's coming in a little bit early. It's an 11 o'clock kick, and they're going to stay the rest of the day and spend the night after the game, tailgate, go to a restaurant, go to Magnolia, do what they need to do, and then, of course, spend the night and then go back home up to Dallas and Fort Worth. If you need a hotel and you can't find one, they are available, 7 of them within the City of Woodway. For more information on that, it's discoverwoodway.com.
The wait is over. Richard Carr GMC has the trucks. 2022 GMC Sierras have hit the lot, and they're waiting for you. Sierra trucks offer best-in-class towing, strong steel beds, multi-pro tailgates, and advanced features that make driving a Sierra second to none. Trucks are waiting for you to test drive now. So call now, log in now, or get here now and drive your next truck today at Richard Carr.
Richard Carr, they have the truck for you.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month. Includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T is board-certified physician consultations, will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why we take the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott in Conroe at 936-756-7717. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your home for holiday favorites for parties or time with the family, with various specials available while supplies last in store or ordering by phone, including 8 to 10 pound half spiral hams at $4.15 a pound, 12-pound pit hams at $4.35 a pound, 8 to 22 pound bone-in hams for $3.40 a pound, 14 to 16 pound whole raw turkeys at $2.85 a pound, and $4.80 a pound for 9 to 12 pound whole smoked turkeys, 6 to 8 pound mini pit hams for $5.99 a pound. Limit 4 of each item per customer. Call in advance to ensure availability or drop by Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. Waco Custom Marketplace, your full-service butcher shop for customized orders or cuts of your favorite steaks or beef tenderloin or specially ordered prime rib roast. WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
They might go for it, and they do. 4th down and 5. Chapin and Baylor. His throw for Baldwin. Has a first down across the 40 and then some. Oh, the speed! 70 yards! Sparks off his shoes for Monterey Baldwin.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
2nd down and 15. Joe Bonner. He's loose. He's got his second touchdown. No flags. 69 yards on that score. Tony Bowie missed the tackle. And somewhat shockingly, this game is tied.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
One of the great things about Sikkim365.com in the premium section is how many different analysts analyze a game prior to it and also after it. And one of those is J.J. Joe, Baylor radio sideline reporter, color analyst, former Baylor quarterback, and he had his in from the game on Saturday night. I read it. It's unbelievably well. And J.J., thanks for your time. We appreciate your patience. And the one line, total systems failure, is what you described Saturday night. I don't know if I've seen anybody describe it better than you did.
Yeah, hey, Smoke, thanks. Hey, I think that's what it was. And trust me, I think I also put in there that, hey, look, I've been a part of one of those before where it just doesn't work out the way you planned. And, and unfortunately for our guys, man, and our coaches, I think that they ran into a buzzsaw for lack of a better term. And it wasn't that we just were mistake field, but we every time we needed to make a play or have something happen positively, we couldn't make the play, and they did. So it was a total systems meltdown.
JJ, one of the things I thought going into the game last week that was kind of different between Kansas State and Baylor through, what had been the exact same season where the records were the same and all that, was in the games where Kansas State could smell blood in the water, they hunted. And Baylor sometimes, and like West Virginia in particular jumps out to me, did not do that. And I think Saturday night was a personification of that. Is the minute that they smelled blood in the water, it was, just full steam ahead.
Yeah, I think that's the sign of kind of just that coaching staff and also a veteran team. If you look at what they were on defense, a lot of those players are upperclassmen, even if those guys transferred in from different places. They played disciplined football, and they did. When they kind of smelled a little bit of weakness, they attacked it. And then when they had an opportunity to take advantage of something, they did. And despite all that, I think I mentioned this as well, that it seemed like it was a huge gap, but it was 17-3 at half, which if you just get one score, then you have a game. And then it was even 17-3. They didn't score 20, make it 24-3 until I think it was a minute 53 left to go in the third quarter. So they did a good job, man. I think that Kansas State team, if they could play better than that, I'd be scared to see it, because they seemed like they spent the week in our coach's meeting room and they knew exactly what was coming, when it was coming, why it was coming, and how it was coming.
JJ, I'm no expert, but I think this Will Howard kid's got something to him, huh?
Man, he does. It's interesting. I saw Will. I think he came in a game of film I was watching earlier, and I think maybe he started a game, but I thought from a passing game standpoint, he gave them a better opportunity to compete at a high level than Adrian. Not that Adrian was a bad passer, because Adrian was 7 of 8 before he went out, but it just seemed like they were really well prepared. And it's interesting. After the game, I was talking to Elliot Coffey, and they were getting ready to do the post game, and I said, man, we haven't shown that many cat blitzes or corner blitzes this season, but they knew every time it was coming. They knew it, but we hadn't shown it like that. I'm like, I don't know how in the heck they know it was coming. He said, JJ, we never run press to the boundary, and every time we ran press, we blitz. And I was just like, you know what? I didn't think about that. But it's that kind of thing. They just knew it was coming, man, and that helped the quarterback. If the quarterback feels comfortable with the plan, and of course, when you can run the ball, that helps. But Will played a really good football game.
He seemed like, and JJ, I guess it's almost like this. You either have it from experience or instincts or eyes in the back of your head. He was always a half a step or a half a throw away, right, from being hit, sacked, whatever. He hasn't played that much. Is that just instinctive, what you saw from him?
I think so. I think, some quarterbacks feel it. They hear it. It's interesting. If you've ever been in the pocket, it's noisy. There's all this noise and breathing hard, and you could tell the guy's trying to come get you. And, and he did a good job of avoiding sacks. I think we may have gotten to Adrian once or twice, but we got close to him and just couldn't get our hand on Will Howard. Now, remember, he played quite a bit last year, so it's not like he's green, right? I think when Skylar Thompson got hurt, he came in, played a few games, so I think he got some valuable experience, and I think we're seeing that, this young man probably, that position is in good hands when Adrian Martinez leaves. So, he just had a really good game, man, and just did a good job of keeping them out of trouble, and that really helped their offense keep going.
And JJ, I don't know how many people may remember this, but he actually played at McClain 2 years ago because Skylar Thompson was hurt, and he was just more of a young pup. And he said after the game that was like motivation, that game had stuck with him because he got beat up, and that was a big win for Baylor and a bad loss for Kansas State. And so he got a little bit of redemption. And it seems to me, from hearing Kleiman, from hearing Deuce, like that loss a couple years back in Waco stuck with all those guys. And they were, as you can imagine, very happy with kind of getting a little measure of revenge on Saturday.
Yeah, you could tell. I think actually their linemen, because I missed it, but, J-Mo told me, hey, did you see their linemen came back out after the game with their shirts off and took a picture in front of the scoreboard. So, I think because they tout themselves as a very physical team. And I think Baylor, I know especially last year, I think we proved to them that we probably were a little bit more physical of a team. And then we had the linemen coming back, and that's kind of how we were touted. And of course, we were defending champions and, all that. But nevertheless, they did some things, man. They couldn't stop our running game. This is what I wrote. This was so frustrating about me. They couldn't stop us, and it showed early. everybody and their mom knew we were going to run that ball. And on that first drive, we were doing any kind of run we wanted to, and they knew it. And then they said, you know what? We ain't going to sit here and take this. We're going to change this. We're going to flip 4-man front. We're going to move on to snap. And they chickened us out of just continuing to run the ball. On the first drive, we gave our running back the ball 5 times in the first drive. For the game, we gave it to him 16.
And how much included
and
shaping?
we were down by 2 touchdowns all the way to late third. So they did some good in-game adjustments that really kind of unsettled us, and I just don't feel like we adjusted as well. And once things got going kind of sideways for us, it just seemed like it wasn't going to be enough possessions to catch up at first, is what it seemed like.
So, JJ, as you look into this week against a TCU team that has found ways to win and continue to keep winning all season long, no matter how the game goes, how do you adjust going in if you are Baylor and trying to shake off your worst performance in years?
Yeah, I don't know what the team psyche is. I mean, I think after that game, because think about it, you had everything to play for. You had everything to play for on Saturday, and we no-show. And that team, our team had been playing, I would call, solid football. I mean, we had won the previous 3 games, actually, and offensively against West Virginia. We scored 40 in a loss, although, we turned it over a few times. So we were moving on offense. But I'll tell you, man, it's just been something. It's like as much as good as our 21 team played in high leverage moments, this team just hadn't been able to find it in high leverage moments. And that happens, man. You have a lot of talent back, but we lost too many. We just lost too many leaders. We lost them all at once, and this team is even though this team is not talent-wise, probably a 7-win team or 8-win team, from a leadership standpoint, this is a 7-win team. And I've been a part of those teams. And this weekend coming up, you have a team that was like us last year. Like, we're going to look in the mirror and say, like, man, I remember when it was like that. And I hope our guys have a little fight left in them. I really hope they do, because they're going to play a team that believes and knows they're supposed to win. And you're going to have to go take it. And I'm just not sure if our guys this year, ready to go take a game from a team like that, right? It's not that they can't. I just don't know if we just have that fight and that discipline for 60 minutes to go get that done. I hope we do.
What does it say that Dave Aranda in the post game, and it's about the 15th time we've heard it, and I'm not trying to be flippant, said that there is still a constant tug of war among some of his players or within the team to be ready to play? Is that immaturity that he's also alluded to throughout the season? Is that entitlement? Is that just a lack of communication? You would think of anyone, he's got that philosophical ability to kind of read people. What is that? How frustrating would that be as a teammate?
You would think after 4 losses they had understood that by now,
Yeah. No, that's a good one. I mean, I think he's just coach he's at a loss. I mean, coach, he's a really good coach. I love Coach Aranda. I mean, I think he knows which buttons to push. But sometimes it's like some children you have that you just like, man, how can I get that booger going? This team is one of those. This team is that middle child. I guess that baby child, for him, that number 3, right? He had that first child at 20, like, oh my goodness. Then he had that great one, that middle child. Now he's got this baby that he's not sure how to handle. But I think part of it is, Smoak. I think we can, if we look back on it, I think what we'll see is when you lose the leaders that you lost, maybe they just weren't. I hate to say it. Maybe they just weren't. They weren't with these guys. These guys probably needed one more year of somebody. Maybe they need one more year of Petrie, one more year of Bernard, just something so it can be ingrained. Because those guys had something ingrained in them, and it was many of them. It was 3, 4, 5 of them. And in that group, and not that this, because I still believe Blake is the best quarterback for this team, although, people fuss about that. The loss of Gary, because of Gary's persistence to stick it out. Petrie stuck it out. Bernard had to stick it out through injury. JT Woods was he was a veteran that was around. Raleigh kind of had Tejada had to go through ups and downs and stick it out. You had a lot of guys that just had a little grizzle on them, man. And we lost all those guys at once. And I think this team doesn't have that gristle, that hard edge, right? They just don't have that. And that happens sometimes. That's not a knock. That just happens. And, you know, that's why I said earlier on, I really appreciate programs that are expected to be good every year, and they are good because, like, they don't lose that, whatever that is, that gristle that comes along with just kind of, you know, if a team's going to beat us, they're going to have to break a couple legs, twist some ankles, you know, have a couple concussions to beat us. And we're learning that. Hopefully we can finish this thing out strong.
J.J. Joe, former Baylor quarterback, Baylor color analyst, Baylor Radio, with us on 365 Sports. J.J., I asked you this, and obviously it was a bad night for Blake Shapen, but it was a bad night for everybody. Everybody woke up on the wrong side of the bed or pillow. He's the guy. Dave Aranda told a story yesterday when I interviewed him about he was up late Sunday evening when they were having like family night dinners, whatever, coaches and family. He's walking out of the door with a bunch of young receivers. If people are like frustrated with him, would you have brought in Kyron Drones for a little bit or not in the second half?
No, I think it's quarterback is a funny position, man. You guys know this, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's different. It's different. That's your lieutenant, your sergeant, however you want to look at it. That's your lieutenant. And once you switch him, you switch him. If you're not ready to switch him, that's why I don't like shoveling in quarterbacks and all that bull crap. You know, if you're going to switch him, you better be ready to switch him. And I think with Blake, he wasn't playing as good, of course, as he wanted to play, and made that early mistake. But I think what really would have helped Coach Grimes and Sean, like they did, I forgot if it was the Kansas game, they had a package for Kyron. I think, you know, and I'm not sure if we got away from it or we just not come back. You know, I like having something for Kyron that he knows he's going to have no matter what. And that makes it even easier for Shapen to digest. He may not like it, but he knows, hey, Kyron's coming in to do this. That gets Kyron in the game. So, but while it would have been easy to say, hey, we're going to give Kyron these snaps, and he was going to come in at the very end, but they ran the clock out. You just can lose the kid. You can lose Shapen. I don't mean losing like transfer. I don't mean all that stuff. You can just lose it for the remainder of the season if you just go ahead and jerk him because, like, hey, man, you know, you're not playing good, but none of us are playing good. So if you're going to do that, you just got to be ready to do that all the way around.
Yeah, because he was incredibly loyal with Charlie Brewer during that disastrous 2020 COVID year. And there was constant chats, almost like the fan base turned on Charlie because Aranda wouldn't make that change. And I think it's because Dave knew that if whoever was coming in after Charlie, they were going to get mauled like a tiger, you know?
Yep.
And I know that frustrated a lot of people. Thank you, buddy. Thank you for being patient with us and coming on a little bit later than normal. We appreciate you. We'll see you Saturday.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
J.J. Joe with us. Up next, Hall of Fame columnist John McClain. Anything you want to add to that? I
think some fans turned on Charlie before that. I mean, that was a long process of the Charlie turn. And I liked him, but he got a long rope.
I think it was the drama. Like the fact that it was great when he could all of a sudden turn it on at the end of a game and go win it, but it was that
why did he play poorly for 2.5 quarters, and why is he suddenly Superman in the fourth quarter every time, you know, and not just a quarterback through and through. Like, I think it was just the never knowing what you were going to get, and that's just hard to deal with especially when he's starting as many games, and you still, by the end of it, 30 games in, you're still like, I don't know what to expect. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, if in fact there would have been the decision by Aranda, he made one decision. Fedora was fired. Charlie left. If you had to fire one of the two, who would have fired?
Charlie or Fedora?
To move on to the next year, if they would have had to make
they both had to go.
I'm not. I know. I'm just hypothetical.
I don't think you can be that fatalistic about things. Like it's where it's like either this or this because Like, it wasn't clearly working either way. I mean, I guess you probably keep a veteran quarterback over an offensive coordinator, but
but he was as much a part of what people were angered by as anything, and that's why you couldn't really do just one and not the other.
Yeah. Well, they got Charlie made the decision for him, and then Larry Fedora made the decision, Randa made the decision.
I don't mean this personality wise at all, but like if you went to the doctor and he said you have 2 moles on the back, like, I got to take them both, but like you have to pick one today. I'd be like, no, if you want to take them both, you got to take them both.
Get rid of them. When we come back, we'll have John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist, and then also Paul's Top 5, and this is 365 Sports.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgin Ford. It's that time of year. It's football season, and BK Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football teams in Texas, right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, led by our leading rusher, the F-150, 45 years in a row. Lock in your best price and rate today by custom ordering your new F-150 at BK Ford. Simple, easy, trusted. Experience better at Bird Colgin Ford.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel & Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel & Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel & Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneerboys.com.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Howdy, Chet Garner here, professional guide, searching for bears in the wild. But not just any bears, oh no, a particular kind. With hundreds of thousands roaming freely in the wild, yet still hard to spot unless you know the signs. There they are, Baylor bears. If you're a bear enthusiast or even a bear yourself, join me and let's find some bears in the wild.
Join the expedition at baylor.edu/alumni.
Looking for a great job with great pay and awesome benefits? Genco FCU is hiring. As a longtime Waco employer, Genco focuses on what matters most in our employees' lives, like pay incentives, bonuses, benefits, 401k plans, paid time off, advancement opportunities, medical, prescription, dental, and vision insurance, as well as short and long-term disability. Come join our incredible team today and make Genco your career that will work for you. Apply at gencofcu.org or at any branch location.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with NFL Hall of Fame columnist John McClain. Brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943. Read John's work at gallerysports.com and sportsradio610.com.
There's a great conversation in the chat room on Yellowstone opening up Sunday night, and who's going to win the battle between Beth and Jamie, her, I guess, surrogate brother. Who is that on Yellowstone? And then also the new attorney that's in the picture. Who's going to win that cat fight? That's going on right now in the chat room. John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist, BallySports.com and 610 Sports Radio. John.
Excuse me, David. First,
yes, sir.
As someone who's seen every episode of Yellowstone, anybody that would ask a question, who's going to win the battle between Beth and her brother Jamie, is clueless about that show and must not have ever watched it, because not only does she own him this year because she caught him committing a murder and she's got it on tape, so he has to call her yes ma'am when she says she cut his footballs off a long time ago. So that's about like the Eagles playing the Texans. That one's so lopsided. Okay, sorry.
All right, gallerysports.com. I'm sorry about that. Is the intro into John McClain. He's been writing for them here recently. So Philadelphia got beat. Washington looks like they got a little mojo, and unbeaten Eagles went down. Your thoughts about no one's undefeated? Not a surprise, but nobody's undefeated.
Well, first of all, Eagles got a problem like the Cowboys. They can't stop the run. And Washington exploited it by running the ball 49 times, only averaged 3.1 yards carry, and of course, forcing turnovers. They kept the ball for over 40 minutes. When you don't have the ball much and you turn it over, that's a recipe for defeat. And that's why they got beat. And Philadelphia had not turned the ball over hardly at all. They were plus 15, leading the NFL. It's like the Cowboys going up back-to-back games over 200. You got to be able to stop the run. And Philadelphia people are going to continue, just like they will with the Cowboys, to try to exploit it. Now, Washington's about to be 6-5 because they play the Texans. Texans are the worst run defense in the NFL, one of the worst in the history of the NFL. So I expect Washington to come in and do the same thing to the Texans, and every team in that division will have a winning record. It is, who would have thunk? I certainly didn't. I thought it was Dallas and Philadelphia that the NFC East would beat the AFC West as being the best division in the NFL by far.
John, the Cowboys fall to Aaron Rodgers again. Do you think he is now motivated to play? Because it looked like he was kind of checked out. Did the Cowboys come in and wake him up?
He was critical of Matt LaFleur's play calling, and LaFleur took the blame, and that's after a victory. Now, I'm thinking if they lose their next game, is he going to go after Matt LaFleur again? Now, he got a good performance from Watson, his rookie receiver. They ran the ball very well. The Packers know when it gets to be late November, you've got to be able to run the ball when you play all your home games at Lambeau Field and you play so many games outdoors. And they were able to do that. I still don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I'm still astonished that Minnesota is tied for the best record and is a legitimate Super Bowl contender as long as Kirk Cousins doesn't play in primetime, where he's been awful. And that's one thing that makes this season so interesting, are the teams that are doing well that we didn't expect, and the teams that are doing poorly we expected to do well. That's why as they jockey for playoff position in the second half, well, really after Thanksgiving and through the end of the regular season in January, crunch time, it is so exciting.
John, in your expectations, did you have the Raiders nipping on the heels of the Texans for the number 1 overall pick after 10 weeks?
Oh, Rich Bisaccia went to Green Bay, looks pretty good. Players wanted him to stay last year. They were, I think, 7-2 in one-score games this year. They're 0-6, I believe. and they made the playoffs. And I thought they were going to make the playoffs again. They've been a huge disappointment. The Texans have a half-game lead on them in the standings, and since the Raiders beat the Texans, that's an advantage for the Texans when it comes to getting the first pick in the draft.
John, with Deshaun Watson back, I guess, at the facility his first game will be against the Texans. Was the NFL just like sick evil in making sure? I know that there was like a length of suspension, could be brought back to a certain number of games. Was that almost a sick joke that he's going to open up against the Texans?
I think they did that trying to help out the Texans so they'd have one game people would be interested in, because they haven't been interested in anything else. Down here, they'll care about losing to the Cowboys at AT&T Stadium, but I think they did that so people would actually be excited about a game. I'm writing my first Deshaun Watson column since I left the Chronicle at the end of March, and I'm going to do it for Gallery Sports tomorrow, because every time I wrote about him for the last 2 years, it got a great number of clicks. So I'm going to start it again because the Texans are so bad. I may write more about Watson up to that December 4th game than I do about them.
John, do you think that he'll be ready to play when he comes back, or do you think he'll look rusty because he hasn't played in 2 years?
He hasn't, and it's the only time he's going to play indoors, and the rest of the games are going to be in December outdoors where he has not traditionally played well. He's not going to throw the ball a lot because they got Nick Chubb, and the Texans have given up 181 yards a game against the run. Nick Chubb will come in here and run for 150 yards like most backs do, and they shouldn't need Watson too much.
What have you thought about the turnaround with Tua in Miami?
Right now, Tua and Patrick Mahomes are the two best quarterbacks, two leading candidates for Offensive Player of the Year and MVP. I think the one that doesn't get it will get the other one. Miami's a legitimate Super Bowl contender, 5-0 when Tua starts and finishes a game, and hopefully he can stay healthy. He's hurt every year he's been in football going back to Alabama. Hopefully those concussions early in the year will be his injuries for this season, and because they are fun to watch. Because at a time when everybody's running the ball, going back to old school because of all the two-deep coverages, I think that they can still throw the ball, throw it down the field, hit the quick slant routes. In Miami is a really fun team to watch. And Tua Tagovailoa, they tried to replace him with Deshaun Watson, and right now they are so glad they did not.
They had a parade. The Astros win it. They celebrate it, and then the general manager is out the door. What's been the reaction on James Click and some of the changes?
Most of it is going back over every move Jim Crane has made, and they've all worked out. We were all upset when they let Carlos Correa go in free agency, year before George Springer, year before Garrett Cole, and they just keep going to the World Series and winning a second World Series. So he relies on Jeff Bagwell a lot. He relies on Reggie Jackson a lot. Reggie Jackson's been working for the Astros for 2 years, but mainly Jeff Bagwell. So there's a lot of former Astro personnel people who are worked under Jeff Luhnow, the general manager who was fired after the scandal, who are with other teams, and they're wondering, will he try to hire one of them? Will they come back here knowing that James Click didn't get his contract renewed after winning a World Series? Mm-hmm. Is Jim Crane too involved for another general manager? He left Jeff Luhnow alone, and then after he fired him, he said he better pay more attention and be more hands-on, and that's what he's done, and they've won a World Series. It was written today by Jeff Passan at ESPN when he did a behind-the-scenes thing about what's going on, and he said that Jim Crane wants to be Jerry Jones. I said, whoa. Jerry Jones wants to be Jim Crane because Jim Crane actually wins something.
Yeah, look, he doesn't want to be Jerry Jones. That means that 25 years will go by, and he'll be like, what happened?
Well, we won 2 World Series titles. Yeah, but that was 25 years ago, right? John, your Baylor Bears blew a gasket.
They had the bye week last week, right? That was what that was?
Yeah, it was awful. It was a bad night all the way around. What happened to your alma mater?
I go back to 1960 with Baylor, and I can't remember a game. I'm sure there was that I was more disappointed because they control their own destiny, had a great crowd, playing at home, and they just got pulverized in every way. And so I quit tweeting at the end, and I quoted my late mother as saying, you have to be nice to Baylor. So I stopped. And so now I'm all about basketball, of course. Can't wait to see what they do in Las Vegas. Of course, if they beat TCU, we'll all be happy, but I sure don't see that happening in light of what happened in Waco and in light of what happened in Austin.
John McClain is the man, retired stockbroker on the chat room. Listened to him for years on 610. He's still there. GallerySports.com, he's doing that. That's from retired stockbroker to you, John. A compliment to you, as always, on the chat room here.
Well, Tom, thank you very much. I do appreciate that, and I appreciate you guys letting me come on every week so I can say sick 'em.
Thank you very much, John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist, by the way, with us on Tuesdays around between 5:30 and 5:45. Baylor women tonight, third straight in-state opponent. They will host SMU at the Farrell Center. That tip-off at 7. Tonight, Maction, you have Bowling Green at Toledo, and Ohio State Ball Stadium, which is a very competitive series, like 42-40 and a few ties.
Ohio State?
Ohio State is not playing Ball State because it wouldn't be that competitive. Ohio and Ball State.
I mean, they would play them early in the year.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Jim Tressel,
or if they were in the SEC, they'd play them actually right now.
Yeah. Jim Tressel had a schedule one year that they didn't leave the state of Ohio in their non-conference.
In that state's one, you don't have to leave. It's some pretty good football. All right, when we come back, Paul Catalina's Top 5. This is 365
Ball State's
Sports.
in Indiana, so.
This month, Allen Samuelson Waco's having the Black Friday sales event. You can save big on the new 2022 Ram 1500 Crew Cab with total values up to $4,250 with 2.9% for 72 months. That's right, plus an extra $500 bonus cash to first responders and no payments until January 2023. Shop an award-winning dealership with award-winning product. Allen Samuelson Waco, the place to shop Ram trucks.
Come by, let's be friends.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears!
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don's Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McClain County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55.
Top 5 coaches heat meter, volume, whatever. I've lost count. But we're down to the last 2 weeks of the season, and there's some pretty big AD news this week, so I thought I would do this again. Number 5. Do you mind if I sing the jingle, guys? Be cool about fire safety. This is Jimbo Fisher, not going anywhere, but he would be wise to take the fire safety course, which in this instance is rehaul your overall offensive staff. You know who did this? And I have to credit Pat Forty in his column this week mentioned this. Brian Kelly did this at Notre Dame. They went 4-8. And he was in jeopardy of losing that job because Notre Dame, when you fail, they don't let you stay around for that long. And he is now the all-time winningest coach in that program because he changed almost everything that he did there and has now relayed that into LSU and is doing the same thing there and is being successful. So I would say the fire safety course taught by Brian Kelly, again, also a guy who's not, everybody's buddy like Jimbo's not. Like, you can win if you just follow the advice of other people.
Was Brian Kelly coming off the '1 recruiting class of all time?
No,
he wasn't. That's where Jimbo's biggest problem lies, is all of the build-up and, the expectations and, all that comes with that. It's obviously been a very disappointing season. I mean, they're basically an afterthought in so many ways at this point. And look, most schools are, I guess, when you start getting down to conference championship races and, the CFP and all of that. But that'll reignite some with bowl games and everybody getting one final opportunity. But yeah, for A&M, I mean, that's not even in the cards. So it's like, man, you really have to wait until next season, basically, and they'll create some optimism, I'm sure, in the offseason, maybe make a coaching change or whatever and sign another really good class. But man, what an interesting situation that the Aggies find themselves in due to just the way that contract was set up. I mean, that's the thing. If it was just a normal contract or relatively normal contract, you'd probably be fine. But they just guaranteed so much with it that it's kind of rocking a hard place.
All right. One of the things that I was thinking about, this is a random deal. They just lost Anthony Hill, as high level as you can get. Their class right now has only 11 commitments, although 8 of them are 4-star, 7 4-star. It's like I haven't even heard about their recruiting class this year.
Yeah, well, and look, they're going to probably make a mad dash and get up higher numbers, but we'll see. Number 4.
Can anyone play quarterback?
Is it hot in here or is it just me? This guy has dropped down the list. Scott Satterfield. Now, he's got a couple weeks here that will help him or hurt him. But if he, say he finishes, right now they're 6-4. If they finish 7-5, 8-4, you can't really do anything about it. If they get embarrassed these last 2 weeks and go 6-6, then maybe it starts back up. But if he goes 7-5, I think you're going to have a hard time getting rid of Scott Satterfield as much as you may not want to keep him there.
Yeah, I have no idea what the pulse is here. I know it was a bit rapid in the early part of the season, and then I don't know. I just kind of lost touch with the whole thing as they went about their merry way, and he won some games and kind of seemingly cooled off. I know they lost to Clemson now, so not really a ton of shame in that necessarily. No, Malik Cunningham's been banged up too, but I have no idea on what the motivations are right now in Louisville and how much he's on a hot seat. But he was definitely one of those guys we talked about a lot early on.
Number 3, check the exits. David Shaw. There is some scuttlebutt around David Shaw right now in Stanford, and I don't think this is imminent, and I don't think it's going to happen this year, but they've not been good for a few years, and nobody goes. And look, I could have also swapped this out for the other Bay Area team and put Justin Wilcox in here at Cal, because the entire Bay Area, when it comes to major college football, is as moribund as you can imagine. Attendance is terrible. The games are meaningless to them because the teams aren't good. And these aren't teams that, I'm not talking about teams that have been classically bad. I'm not talking about Florida Atlantic here. I'm talking about Stanford and Cal, who have great histories when you look back at it. There's great players that have played at both schools. There have been great classic games. And right now, as they head into their rivalry game coming up here, who among the fan base cares other than beating the other one? And there's not people going. So I do think that Stanford's going to start looking at David Shaw. And even though this isn't on a graphic, Cal's going to start looking at Justin Wilcox.
He had a run there. Boy, did David Shaw after Harbaugh left, and maybe he set the table. 11, 12, 11, 8, 12, 10, 9 wins each year.
Yeah, and then what happened the last
4 and 8, 4 and 2, 3 and 9, and now this year 3 and 7.
Yeah,
it's kind of dropped off the cliff.
It's not, you said what? And it's like, if this was 2016, then you go, oh, no way. But maybe even a couple years back you would have said that. But they haven't even made a bowl game in 4 years. And I know some of that's COVID, and they got hit harder probably than anybody because just the way they do things out there. But they've been kind of irrelevant. Not kind of, but they've been pretty irrelevant the last few years.
And almost forgot David Shaw was still at Stanford, but man.
And look, there are academic challenges there recruiting-wise, but they've navigated it in the past. You're Stanford. You can get almost every super smart football player in the country if you want to.
And to be fair, they did get, like Emmitt Smith's kid got hurt, and and he was a really good player for them. So they've dealt with some other stuff too. But the whole magic of him, is he going to jump to the NFL? It's like, is he going to last at Stanford? Maybe he'll need to because he might not have a choice. But I'm curious to see about this one.
All right, number 2. Alert the fire brigade. I heard that in a movie one time. I thought it was funny. Tom Allen started 3-0. They are now 3-7 at Indiana.
That guy's nuts.
Again, another reason why you might need to alert the fire brigade, because they're drowning in Indiana right now. And while he had a couple good seasons and there was some fire around, about him, now I just think it's evident that they might have to do something. You lose 7 straight, maybe on the way to losing 9 straight to end the season. That's not good.
Was his year that they got hot, the COVID year? Was that when Indiana, was it the year after that? Because they had a year where they kind of seemed they had a quarterback that was pretty good.
Yeah, Michael Penix.
Yeah, who's now at Washington.
Yeah, they had Michael Penix. Now they don't. He's at Washington, and Washington's 8-2. So
$20 million buyout.
Yeah. So.
Well, that might impede things. I don't know how hardcore they are about football at Indiana. I know it's not their number one, but
they've not been doing good with their number one lately.
No,
either.
They're not. Yeah, it's true. But I don't know what the desire is for success there in that program. But I could see this one, happening relatively sooner rather than later. And Michael Penix was a dude for them and has proven to be pretty good. Washington has really great moments and had some other moments that aren't as good, but he's been very entertaining and very good for the Huskies.
Yeah. Indianapolis Star at $20 million if he's fired before December of 2023.
Yeah. So maybe they ride it out for another year and see what happens. But number 1, Great Chicago Fire of 1871 hot.
Craig just caught the fly.
That's awesome. There we go. But Great Chicago Fire of 1871 hot. That fire was started by a cow. This one is started by the athletic director getting terminated by West Virginia this week. Neil Brown. I cannot imagine a scenario, and especially after talking to West Virginia people, where the new AD comes in and goes, "Don't worry about it, you're okay." Or that the new AD comes in without being told, your first job is to fire the old football coach and hire him.
He knew that during the interview process.
Yeah. So, I don't think there's going to be anything, because I think one of the first questions is going to be, who would you hire as a football coach and why?
Yeah, I think this one's pretty clear with the AD out the door. And lack of enjoyment that there seems to be around West Virginia football. How about Pat McAfee saying he hadn't been in contact with anybody from there, basically, during the Neil Brown era? I mean, he said as much in a tweet I saw yesterday of like, I don't talk to anybody there anymore. I haven't talked to anybody in a really long time, but I think this is a good move talking about Lions being gone. What does that tell you? Well, I mean, he's far and away your biggest star. He's not like the best player you've ever had, but he's far and away your biggest star, especially right now. And to not have a relationship with Pat effing McAfee and is the West Virginia program and football coach, that's insane, dude. That is inexcusable. If Baylor had a star of that caliber, a former player, and we weren't making note of that, or we were aware that they didn't have any kind of relationship, I would be roasting their butts on this show. But I don't know what's behind that. But man, that'd be a good start, is get the former players involved and your biggest star.
Sometimes, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. But sometimes when coaches come in, we saw that with what Callahan did at Nebraska. I don't know, but they just, for some reason, think it's better.
Yeah, good idea.
That they feel like they want to separate themselves rather than embrace it. I don't know if it's an ego thing or not, and it hardly ever works.
The biggest thing is you should do as a coach is reach out and be like, look, you got to tell me about when it was good.
Yeah.
Like, what are the best things? And then try to water that lawn.
Yeah.
But they, sometimes they don't.
Garrett Ross has a basketball game tonight, the women, right? Also, thanks to Jacob Wilson, Jack McKenzie, Levi again, and Emery, wherever they are, out causing trouble. For Paul and Craig, I'm David Smoak, and this is 365 Sports. Thank all of you. The chat room, Biscuits and Gravy, we missed you today. A little trying to work on that relationship with our audience. This is 365 Sports.